It has all come down to this. Welcome to the final day of competition here in the AMX ESPORTS Championship Season number 1. It started a good couple of months ago when we took to the track for the first time in Suzuka in the main portion of the championship, but many online events and a handful of offline events brings us here today to this Thursday, 28th of October, where we will crown a champion of the AMX Esports Championship after 3 rounds of competition that we'll be having today. My name is Connery Maddock. I'm joined by the ever wonderful and ever present Somil Aurora for this one. It's the time that we've all been waiting for, Somil. It is time to decide who's going to be our champion, who's going to take away the lion's share of that prize pool. Current pool stands at $59,000 equivalent. Of course, 1 Bitcoin is the entire prize pool, but this is where things start to get just that little bit more exciting here, Somil. I certainly can't wait for it. We got 3 more races, same format as to what we saw yesterday. This one's going to be crazy.
Yeah, about time, Connery. It's been a while since this final round came about, and after yesterday's action, I genuinely cannot wait to see what happens. And this is not just commentators, a cliche, right? Oh, I'm looking forward to a race, it's going to be so much fun. I genuinely can't. Since yesterday, it's been the only thing on my mind about what sort of event are we going to see here today? What sort of competition can, say, someone like PSR put in, who are definitely the star performers? And what about the DCT E-Racing 12 team, who literally lost the championship almost, but they still have a chance. They're mathematically still in it. There's so many possibilities, and that is what makes this final round such a fun one.
First, we head to Silverstone, though, for the leader race. This race will be 15 minutes long. We'll get ourselves 10 minutes of qualifying in just a few moments' time. There's a recap of the format if you're unfamiliar. So 15 points, up to 15 points available for the race winner. And this one, damage is indeed turned on. And here's a recap of the points as well for the leader race. Well, everyone gets at least 1 point here. But certainly if you're one of those teams that are very top of the order, you want to be getting just that little bit more. Let's have a look then at the standings coming into today, because it has changed complexion a little bit coming into today after the events of yesterday, where DCT Racing dropped the ball for all intents and purposes. Now their sister car of DCT Racing lead the championship by 15 points over their stablemates. Atlas BX Esports team did not have a good day either. They slide further behind the front two. If you look all the way back, though, you see likes of Team BTC and PSR that had pretty good days. Well, PSR in particular had a pretty good day yesterday. They're up 3 positions from where they were at the start of yesterday. And you look further down the order, Redcon Motorsports also having a fantastic day. They are up 4 positions from where they were yesterday. So that's the state of the championship heading into this one, Somil. It is so close between those 2 DCT cars at the front. Well, it's 1 race win in either the leader race or the 2 driver race that separates them at the moment.
Absolutely, and that is where things all completely come down to influences. But I get a feeling that this one will not be down to the influences. This one will be down to Yunho Park and how he can avoid making mistakes. Because honestly, that was the one big thing that triggered everything for the number 12 DCT E-Racing team that has in fact lost the position since yesterday. If Yunho Park, their star driver, the AMX Junior Cup champion, is on form, I think even this gap can be overturned regardless of how ludicrous it may seem right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, for team, for those teams at the very front, this is one of the most pressure-filled situations that they have ever been in. It's absolutely crazy for these guys, knowing that, at the start of the championship, we had really no idea who was going to come out on top in this one. And after what is currently, well, we're coming into our 16th race of the season, things still very, very close at the very top of the order. So that's what we're optimistic about coming into this one, of course. We'll get ourselves qualifying for the leader race started in around about 3 minutes time here, Somil. Drivers just getting their last moments of practice in. There's the view live inside the venue of all the drivers prepared, and of course the Korean commentators covering the pre-race just like we're doing right now as well. Yeah, this is one of those teams is going to be jumping for joy at the end of today. And one of those teams, especially at the very front there, is going to be deflated with their performance. You can see the two DCT cars that are competing for the championship. They are both on the right-hand side of that podium right there, right in the middle of the stage. So you've got, if I'm having a look at the seating plan, for today, we've got ourselves DCT Racing. That's your championship leaders. They are directly to the right of the podium. You have DCT E Racing, the current second place in the championship now. They are to the right of them. So you can see that there on your screen. So look to those sim rigs if you want to see some emotions today, I guess.
Exactly. And they're going to be completely at it against each other. And I wonder how this complexion goes about, right? When you're fighting your own teammates, in a way, the difference today, Condry, is only going to be, well, does the winner have an extra E in their name or not?
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing, DCT Racing, DCT E Racing. It's very much a similar capability of a driver lineup as well, even for the influencers, who we have often seen being the big variable. They've been evenly matched there as well. Just Yunho's unfortunate mistakes. And it's a shame that they stand out so much because Yunho has been the quality driver of this entire season so far. But just when it counts, that's when it's happened. Hey, let's not focus on the past too much. Today, it's a fresh day. It's a fresh start for everybody. Maybe that gap can be overturned.
It's a new day. Exactly as you said, it is a completely new day. Whatever happened yesterday, just put it out of your mind. You can do better today, and that's what DCT E-Racing are certainly hoping for. Yunho, you'll probably have had the evening and the morning and a sleep to try and reflect on what happened, and ready and well, he's going to be back ready and raring to go. It tells a lot about a development of a driver and the strength of a driver to try and bounce back from these situations. You just can't be having something like this happen and just languishing and never able to get back on your feet. You just need to immediately respond, get out there, just drive like hell, and make sure that you're able to get onto the top couple of spots.
And he can do that. He's an AMX Junior Cup champion. He's won so many races. And he's also done this amazing thing where he can fight from the back of the grid as well. I know we've seen it happen a couple of times, especially at Laguna Seca, if I'm not mistaken. He's a man who can do it all, right? And not even a man, I'm sorry. He's a kid who can do it all. He's under 18 at this stage. So to see him fighting for a championship at this level, first of all, is an amazing thing. But I suppose this is the time where he holds up his own end of the deal, right? Because now we see the pressure really come up to both the teams and the drivers. Just a matter of who can sustain it. And if he can't at this stage, it's not the worst thing in the world. You're still a young driver. You still have time on your side. But knowing how Yunho has performed so far this year, I think he just has that little bit extra waiting in the wings so that he can deploy it all in and maybe just get that championship sealed in today.
Here we go then. We are into one of our final qualifying sessions in the AMX Esports Championship. It's been a very long road to this point, but we are here and now. In a few hours, we'll get to see who is a champion of this series for its inaugural season. Of course, you know, the guys over at Automatics, you know, have done a fantastic job with this championship. The amount of support that they've given, the amount of technology and broadcasting prowess that Africa TV has brought to the live venue and things like that. This is, I gotta say, this is even better than the vast majority of esports productions that even happen in countries where sim racing is currently more popular, like in Europe or North America. We don't get anything like this too often, so these guys have done a fantastic job in trying to develop the South Korean sim racing scene, just like many other esports that Korea has become famous for.
Oh, absolutely. It's a good thing that you've mentioned this, Conry. I suppose the racing has been so good that we haven't quite had a word about this since the very first round a couple of months ago. But the sim racing scene in South Korea is still growing, but it's at It's basically a part, or rather the outer part of a really big esports ecosystem in South Korea. And it's amazing that the Africa TV Coliseum is, I suppose, purpose-built for esports in a way, where we have so many other series and so many other championships across platforms and across games come out here to compete. It's just amazing that the AMX ESPORTS Championship can also lend a hand in a way and maybe say that, right, I'm a new competitor, maybe have a look at sim racing as well. And I hope that the numbers are good for this championship back in Korea, because honestly, the entertainment value surely is there. If there are eyeballs watching, which usually are on Africa TV, things are looking bright rather. Then.
Yeah, and so we're getting on to our fast laps now here in this qualifying session, and well, it's a big task for this car in particular, DCT Esports in number 13. Of course, they've been sort of the odd one out as far as all the DCT cars are concerned. You know, their other two sister cars have, you know, been fighting it out for the championship. Meanwhile, they've had pretty rotten luck so far this season. It really has to be said for the number 13. I wouldn't be surprised if they would have been up there fighting in and amongst the top 5, given a better set of circumstances, but they're not. They're down in P12 in points, but they get themselves, you know, a couple of good performances today. They can certainly promote themselves up the order, maybe inside the top 10 in terms of points. It's nothing like their two sister cars in P1, P2 at the moment, but at least it's going to be something.
Honestly, they deserve to be somewhere in the top 5 purely on the pace that they've shown so far this year. But it's not pace that gets you the results, right? It's how you translate that pace into results. And that's been the aspect that's really missing for them. It was good to see them fight back a little bit yesterday. And their comeback was something really inspiring. And you're right, Conry, because everything is so tightly packed up, there is a chance that they can be pushed into the top 10 and remind everyone that, hey, our pace is certainly there, and next year we will be challenging for the title, just like our brother and sister car in a way.
All three DCT cars come across the line, only 2 of them setting valid laps though. It's DCT E-Racing going to the top of the order, and then it's DCT Racing coming in and pipping them to provisional pole position by 7 thousandths of a second there, Somil. It's close already between the two championship contenders. I get the feeling we'll be seeing, well, if that trend continues on into the race, I get the feeling we'll be seeing a great battle between these two. Hopefully it doesn't end in tears and ruin both their races, and maybe Atlas BX get themselves back into the picture. But yeah, 7 thousandths of a second after the first lap of qualifying, ooh, that's got me optimistic.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought that they would be so close at the end of this one? And just imagine, right, how close could they be in the race? And this is one thing that's really bothered me, Conry. So far this year, they've been amazing. They've always been very close to each other, but there's only been one instance where they've actually been side by side that I can remember, and that has to be Spa-Francorchamps around a couple of months ago. We want to see the season end this way, without them going side by side to decide who is the winner. Yeah, this sort of passive battle is fun. It evokes another level of mind games, another layer to the battle, but come on, it's about time we see them literally go wheel to wheel to decide, well, which is the faster team at the end of the day, who can survive a proper hardcore racing battle.
Is Solar Indigo Performance. They're heading their way across the old pit straight right now into the fastest corner on the circuit. That's Pop's Corner, just a fantastic corner, and you really do get a big sensation of speed and the grip of the car as you head your way through there, and similarly so into Maggot and Beckett's as well, one of the most fantastic complexes in all of motorsports. But Sung Yong Kang ended up getting a little bit squirrely on the exit of Beckett's there into Chapel, and now down the hangar straight towards Stowe Corner. Of course, this is going to be one of your big overtaking points here today. The other one, of course, mainly coming through the first sector, maybe on the breaks down into Brooklands as well at the end of the Wellington Straight. But now in towards the Vale, this is another one where we can stick one down the inside, so there's no shortage of overtaking spots here at Silverstone. It's a great track for the side-by-side action. But for Sung Yong Kang in qualifying mode at the moment, and he'll be heading his way across the line with a 1:57.720. First, is that valid? Second, where does it put him? It puts him P12.
Wow. But look who's next to them. PSR, Conry, 13th. PSR were by far and away the standout team yesterday. They won 2 races and they got a podium in the third one. but they're here in 13th. I don't get why it's happening. Or do I? Because they've actually had a bit of a driver swap midway through. They had Hyuk-jun Kwon, who was their star performer, the sim driver, but now he's not here. Hyuk-jun was only there for 1 day. And so they've got Han Sung-lee back into that car, into the PSR car that he was in early on in the season. And Han Sung clearly, at least in the first lap, was not able to match Hyuk-jun's performance. So let's wait and see if it's a driver-based thing or can they actually uphold their performance from yesterday. Because if they can't, my word, what a dip that will be.
Yeah. It's so unfortunate if your substitute driver is the one giving you the results here. That's a little bit unfortunate. Hopefully they make try and get some organisation for season 2. But for Han Sung-lee at the moment, very big shoes to fill at the moment. Even though they were his shoes originally, I suppose. Samuel, onto the brakes, into the Vale chicane, then into club corner in a couple of moments' time. A 1:58.647 is the time to beat as far as the personal best is concerned, and it goes that little bit slower on this lap, so not great there for the Team PSR car. Let's have a look back towards the very front of the order though, because we have DCT E-Racing. This is the car that's been so strong over the course of this season. You know, they've even on a good couple of occasions just completely trounced their closest competitor in the sister car, but here at the live events, it's been anything but, and that's how live events can change things sometimes. Gyuman Kim in the number 12 machine at the moment. He's, just 7 thousandths of a second behind the DCT racing car. Surely he can find 7 thousandths.
Definitely he can, and to give more context about Gyuman Kim's performance, essentially like the Josh Rogers of South Korea in terms of sim racing. Like, he's known to be one of the 2 or 3 best drivers right in there, but who's consistently backed it up with championships. Not just in the world of sim racing with the E-Super Race, but also in the real world. He's made his CJ Super Race debut. It'll make him more like Lauren Heinrich though, wouldn't it? Hey, point is, he's fast. And this guy has definitely been one of the standout drivers in the entire season so far, that he's been able to pip all the other drivers in the team, because of course, remember, they've also got a very capable sim driver in this team as well, right? There's a sim driver, influencer, and a real world driver. But Gyuman is one of the very few drivers of the real world who've been picked in for every single solo driver event that we've had so far, and he's delivered. I don't remember Gyuman making even one mistake this year.
But this is a very crucial lap for Gyuman Kim, and well, both DCT cars are on the flying lap here to end this session. Gyuman Kim, the car that's going to be coming across the line first between the 2 of them. Careful with the curb through Copse Corner, careful with the off-track on the exit of the Copse Corner. Hopefully he didn't get himself an instant point which would invalidate his lap there. He's continuing on with it though, still feels confident in that he still has this lap time valid. Through Maggins and Beckett, up through Chapel, again teasing with the track limits. You can see how hard he's pushing it almost for the lap time.
Exactly, the hunt is on. How much closer can it get in 7 thousandths of a second? Coming across the final couple of corners, this is just proper commitment, Conde. Will he run wide? No, he won't. Man, this is some crazy stuff. Does he get something better is the big question now.
It's a 1:55.409 to beat as a personal best, a 1:55.402 to beat for pole position. But remember, DCT Racing are behind them, also on a lap. What's the lap time going to be for Gyuman Kim? It is not faster than his personal best. What's the lap time going to be for the number 11 though, coming across the line? It's a few seconds slower than their fastest, so they're not able to extend their advantage in terms of the lap time. DCT Esports, the number 13, have gotten themselves P3. It's a DCT Esports 1-2-3 here in qualifying, which is absolutely fantastic indeed. Everyone just sort of on their cooldown laps here. I'm just trying to find someone who is indeed on a lap still at this point. Doesn't look like there's going to be anyone making any major moves at the end of this one. I'm seeing E-Euro come through across the line, and actually they do get themselves P14 on the starting grid with a lap in the dying moments.
I can't keep my eyes off PSR though. How has a team like PSR dropped 3.2 seconds in a day? In a day! How has that happened?
Let's see if they are able to recover. No, they're not going to be able to recover on this lap, just eyeballing the time. So they'll dive down on towards the pit lane then, and we'll get ourselves the starting grid for this race at Silverstone. The leader race, the solo driver race, the final one of the season. Let's have a look at how they line up. It's Young Chan Kim for DCT Racing. Championship leaders, secondary car for most of the season. They start the solo race in pole position. DCT E-Racing coming from behind. They're in P2. DCT Esports start in P3. Atlas BX Esports team, it's been a while since we've really had any sort of mention of them. Of course, they're still P3 in the championship, but they've got a very, very long and very mathematical road back to be able to challenge for the championship at the end of the day. It requires everything going their way. Team BTC will start in 5th with Atlas BX E-Racing team in 6th place. Jungsu Kim's team PS31 in 7th place with Redcon Motorsports in P8. Solar Indigo Racing will start in 9th with One Racing in 10th. Quadro Erin Racing team start in 11th with Solar Indigo Performance in P12. Drivers at the very back of the grid, you have Ulsandia Motorsports, E-Euro, PSR, Midas, and Turan rounding out the 17-car starting order today. We're about to get the final offline event underway in terms of racing here, Sommel, and, well, drivers must be pretty nervous behind those sim rigs, all things considered. You can see just on the right-hand side there. Of course, we can't see their expressions, you know, due to them facing away from this and an element of the mask as well. But they must be, you know, getting the jitters somewhat.
I can imagine. Look at the stage, look at the number of people who have come up in attendance. And also, if somebody tells them the number of people watching, firstly, on the Africa TV broadcast and also here on the English stream, they would add a little bit of pressure on them. It's not easy to perform in any way, shape or form when there are so many people watching. And look at the kind of preparation everyone's doing, stretching their hands, getting themselves ready into the sim rig, stretching their feet as well a little bit. It's all just an attempt to calm yourself down, because right here in this situation where the championship is so tight, only the calmest heads will prevail. And I wonder, again, is it the extra E that'll make the difference in the championship eventually?
You see the drivers' waiting area for each team on the other side of the hall. Drivers that are not in the car will be congregating there, maybe working on strategy and talking to their team member in the car. But in the end, for this solo driver race at least, it is just that individual effort. They're heading their way through the Vale here on this formation lap. Coming up towards Club Corner now. It was an ideal qualifying for all 3 DCT cars. But which order will they come across the line? That will be important in terms of the championship. With Green Flag Racing here at Silverstone for the final offline round of the season. Side by side between DCT E-Racing and Racing through the first couple of corners here. This is a battle for the championship right now on the way through Sector 1. We've got DCT E-Racing on the insides there. Becomes the outside for the next corner through the loop. As they're going to get maybe just a little bit wide here. No, DCT E-Racing get themselves ahead. They started in P2. They got to the race lead. This is exactly what they need. Oh, BTC.
And up behind. BTC spinning around, and look at the top as well. So much battling. Here is a bit of a lunge. And the 12 still keeps it, and this is critical for the championship, Connery. The 12 needs a points cap. The 12 needs to win this one to essentially maximize their chances when we are coming across the cops. And remember what happened the last time 2 championship competitors came across the cops?
Yeah, you don't need to remind me about that one, as we'll get to see the replay of what happens here to Team BTC, because it seemed to be a little bit of carnage there back through the field, so we'll get to watch it on the replay. Here's Team PS31 right behind them, but what happened to Team BTC? They got Solar Indigo with the number 97 ahead. Oh, they just spin the car all of their own accord to Team BTC, and that one of the other Solar cars towards the bottom of the field has the same thing happen to them. It is a trickier car to drive, this GTE, compared to the GT3, due to the fact you don't have traction control, which is why the cold tyres can also be so sketchy.
Yeah, that was not in solidarity, that second spin though. That was just pure cold tyres, and the drivers just failing to get a hang of the traction control of this car. It's a proper challenge, this one. And I love that the best sim and the best sim racing drivers, the real world drivers, are being put into this proper beast. Barely any traction control. You are the traction control. The braking completely different from the really assisted one in the GT3 car. This is proper driving where your skill takes control and your mental sharpness takes control. And at that start, DCD E-Racing team was just so sharp. They nailed it.
They nailed the start. They are, however, still 15 points behind. So in this situation, they're not gaining enough points just by finishing ahead P1 ahead of DCT Racing in P2 to get ahead in terms of the championship. But every single little bit helps here, Somil. It's so crucial.
It certainly is. And that's the important part. You capitalize on every opportunity that you have. And eventually, that is what potentially gets you your championship. Running on board with Young Chan Kim right now. And look at how they're just attacking every corner, right? Taking the furthest, the closest possible line that they can into the corner. I get a feeling that Young Chan really is not worried about, well, is it my teammate? Is it the car with a similar name? I think the gloves are off now, Conry. They've got ample of gaps in terms of points to the Atlas BX team. They can fight on their own now.
Yeah, I think so too. But Atlas BX is there. They're in the best position right now. It's just, to try and capitalize on everything. He got a penalty come through, actually. Here is not a penalty, but an under investigation. It's number 19 and number 77, E-Euro and Quadro E-Rain Racing team for contact earlier on in the race. So that's our first word from the stewards over the course of this one. And I'm hoping amongst all hope, Somel, that the championship isn't decided by the stewards.
100%. That's the worst possible way to end off a season, right? Where you're having some sort of controversy coming in and completely changing the order of the championship. It did make a difference yesterday, remember, with the DCT number 12 car. What's happened to the 13? Why have they dropped off from P4 to P number 8? Suppose we get to find out now.
There's number 97, Solar Indigo Racing coming through. And oh, do they have a slowdown penalty? I wonder, from Cops. Not from Cops, from Chapel. Because that's usually where people pick it up as far as slowdown penalty is concerned. And that's Sangjin Lee for DCT Esports number 13 trying to serve that one. So I get the feeling that the 13, just over the course of this entire season, has been very, very unlucky for their DCT Esports car. Finally, when they get themselves in a decent position to start a race, they get themselves a penalty and they cycle back to 8.
I wonder if the number 13 has something to do with luck in Korea. As far as I can tell, there is nothing like that, but there is something for 31, because that's PS3-1 that are spinning around here.
Team PS3 around in left field, trying to get that car back and going. Let's see it on the replay then. They were fighting with one of the Solite cars on the way on the brakes into Brooklands, looking for the up and under into Luffield. Do they just spin it on their own? No, they don't. No, they don't. It's the number 10 Atlas BX E-Racing team that plow straight into the back of them.
I'll be honest, this Atlas BX number 10 team have unfortunately been like a magnet to accidents so far this year. I mean, they were just there at that spot where the lines converged in a way. Not 100% their fault, but a really weird position for them to be in. And that beautiful Team PS3-1 team, well, they have to put up quite a fight back. And remember, this is not one of the longer races of the season. This is just, 15 odd minutes. Before you know it, the clock will be ticking down right into the final 5 minutes. That's where a comeback becomes really hard for them. As of now, PS3-1 get only 1 point from this race, and honestly, that doesn't justify how good they've been so far, how consistent they've been so far in this race.
Yeah, it has been, pretty tumultuous for them, let's just say that, so far in this one. Of course, the point standings as they are right now, of course, if they finish as they are, if they come across line exactly in the positions that they're in right now, DCT E-Racing still lead the championship. They got 242 points at the moment. DCT E-Racing will have 230. So so DCT E-Racing would have closed that gap to 12 points, but now they're fighting for the race lead here, coming through Luffield. Reynolds there. Oh, almost getting by, but have to sit behind for now. DCT Racing holding on to their race lead. They want to edge that points gap in as much as possible, but DCT Racing are trying to not let them do that.
This is gloves off. This is unconditional. This is the battle for the championship, folks, and this will continue on until the end of this season a couple of hours later, and I can't wait to see what more can they bring to the table. And this is the fun part. When you know each other so well, when you've been working together as a team so well so far this year, what can you do special? What is something extra that you've got in the bag to beat your major title rivals cleanly and surprise them? I wonder what's that special thing hiding underneath the Levitt car, because they look fast now.
87 and 77 under investigation. Solar Indigo Performance and E-Euro, both of those cars at the very bottom of the order, currently being investigated for an incident that they had a little bit earlier on. So those two race leaders now head their way towards the end of lap number 4 in this one. 7 minutes left to go. There's fighting behind, though. Atlas BX E-Racing team, the sister car to the 3rd place in the championship right now, fighting for P6. It was looked like out there on circuit with Redcon Motorsports in P7. Redcon had a pretty good day yesterday, you know, getting themselves up those 4 positions in terms of the championship. And well, we didn't get to talk much about them because we were more concerned about PSR and their podium hunting and the championship situation between the 2 DCT cars. But quietly in the background, Redcon gained a whole bunch of points yesterday.
They did. Redcon have been really consistent and really quiet in this last few races, right?
Oh,
they're up in number... What's happened?
Oh, big incident involving 3 cars. I see the Ulsan DR Motorsports on one of the Solite machines in that. Let's have a look. So Team
That is
PSR
not good.
are leading this train and trying to squeeze through. I believe that is the One Racing car in the number 91. There's a little bit of contact between the 2 of them. So One Racing keeping themselves in it, and then PSR, they just overcommit to the corner, and look at the carnage it causes behind. Remember, damage is on for these races, and a good couple of cars. I count maybe 4 cars that might have gotten a piece of that one.
What can you even do about it? You literally cannot do anything about it. It's such a slow corner. You hit your line. Well, you can barely even dodge it, right? And so it's going to hurt a little bit more because damage is on in this race. It's not like the influencer race that we're going on right here. Damages are on, and with the M8 being such an aerodynamically inclined car, it will hurt you in the corners, something or the other. A 10th here or there, and that will eventually be the difference between you being in a really good spot and you maybe not being able to fight for your position.
Atlas BX E-Racing team versus the Redcon Motorsports machine on the way into the Vale. And, well, that pass was actually done in Stowe by the Atlas BX E-Racing team. So both the Atlas BX cars having better races than what we saw in the 3 races yesterday. So maybe a little bit too late, too little too late for them. But there we go. We'll get ourselves the Ulsan DR Motorsports car is indeed in. Someone's accidentally copy and pasted the Korean penalties into my spreadsheet, but Ulsan DR Motorsports, I think they got a drive-through, which is why they're coming down in.
Yeah, exactly. A bit of a shame for Ulsan DR, where things were lining up so well for them before the offline events came about. And since then, it's just all been downhill. If you think that the 12 was having a bad day yesterday, well, Ulsan DR, they've been on a slide, and they haven't even got one good result like the 12 did yesterday. So things are just declining for them. But let's just hope that there's something in the back for the next couple of races, because a lot of points are yet to be won here.
Oh, they came in unstopped, so I guess that's damage repairs there for Ulsan DR Motorsports. I wonder if this is the same for One Racing as well. Yeah, they're stopped as well. So unless there's stop-go penalties, they're trying to get damage repaired. But meanwhile, Team PS31 and Team PSR are fighting it out there. The 2 teams with very similar names coming through left field, and, well, PSR slide themselves ahead for now, but Team PS31 are not done with this one. Coming through Woodcut onto the old pit straight. Next corner is Cop's corner, and it looks like Team PS31 are going to commit down the inside there. Do they have an overlap required? They do not. PSR are able to take their normal line through the corner, but you can see how worried that PSR car is about the PS31 machine behind them. They're just all over the track somewhat, all the way down into the Maggots and Beckett section. But now, for Team PS31, you're thinking, okay, get the good run out of Chapel. make a move to the inside or outside of Stowe. Both moves can be possible into there, and know that that Team PSR car is damaged. It will struggle in the straight line due to that front bodywork damage, and Team PS31 are going to capitalize by going down the inside at Stowe corner. PSR will give them the space. Are PS31 clear? Not quite, on the way in towards the Vale chicane at the end of the lap here. They've got the one racing car ahead of them, and oh, Team PS1 take a slide through the first apex.
Does PS31 stand for proper slide 3-1 or something like that? Because that certainly was a proper slide. And it's amazing, so many PSs in this midfield battle. And I suppose PS means good fun, and that's why PSR and PS31 were able to put on quite a good show. Shame the PSs cost a little bit too much weight. Point is, that was a good battle. What about the top though? What can DCT put on right now? Because they've been trailing each other slowly, steadily. They've been there. They've not quite lit the fire, Connery. And I wonder if it's something to do with team orders after Spa that you just cannot fight. You can be next to each other, but whoever wins lap 1 wins the race. It's usually what Mercedes and Ferrari used to do back in the day.
The thing is, like, that is all well and good if the two cars are not directly fighting for the championship, you know? Like, emotions start to take over at that point. Yes, you can have that plan if they're in no danger of swapping positions in the championship, but they are in this situation. You can't control what the drivers do in this situation, and well, anything more than that will amount to dishonestly trying to fix the race of the championship. So you've got to let them race at this point. There's no other way about it. And well, DCT Racing certainly still locked on onto the back in towards the Vale. I think this will be the final lap. Yes, it will be the final lap, heading their way across the line this time around.
Yeah, exactly. Let's hope that they can put on a bit of a show, because I can't imagine them not even trying, right? The 11 is not that much slower. They would have tried. If things were normal, they would have gone for a send somewhere. They would have been a little bit closer. I don't know what's happening right here. Maybe we can just potentially listen in if they're lifting and coasting or something like that. But now they're getting closer. That's a good thing.
Yeah, maybe the plan was for Youngchan just to save a little bit in those early stages to make sure he has the performance in the car to be able to challenge at this late stage. But what's helping the DCT E-Racing car right now is a lapped car that came off the pit lane. That's now giving them a little bit of the slipstream on the way in towards Brooklands. That lapped car does get well out of the way though. So they don't necessarily have to do that, by the way. It's still the iRacing Sporting Code rules when it comes to blue flags in this series. Yeah. But, you know, it's nice that they get out of the way and make sure the only difference between these two drivers are the skill of the driver. Youngchan Kim knows, well, not necessarily what needs to be done at this stage, but certainly something that will be very helpful, finishing ahead of the DCT E-Racing car and not allowing them to close that gap. 15 seconds left remaining in the race, and the two championship leaders as close as ever into Maggots, Beckett and Chappell for the final time in this solo race. DCT Racing looking to get the run off of Chappell to be able to make a move down into Stowe, but they're a little bit slow through Brooklands. That's not ideal. DCT E-Racing have been given a little bit of a breathing room on the way down the hangar straight. 0.4 of a second. You can see DCT Racing flashing the lights, perhaps in a bit of frustration that they slightly messed up the Maggots and Beckett section. They commit to Stowe corner. You can see them push wide. The only other option is to send it down the inside at Vale from this far back, but they're not going to go for it. Race conservation for DCT Racing, as DCT E-Racing, they get their day off to a good start. They win the leader race at Silverstone.
Good driving, really measured driving from Kyumin Kim, one of Korea's best, one of the finest drivers, not just in the sim but in the real world as well. He has gone there and proven why he is such a hot commodity. And well, what do we have here then?
47-31, that is the PSR and Team PS31. That was judged. There's no further action due to network latency, I will say there. So it's yeah. So I guess that would be the right call if they felt that that contact should not have happened in the first place. But have the race done and over with here, Sawmill. We can go over our race results here from Silverstone. Of course, unofficial, as the stewards may have to check a couple of things after this one. But Kyumin Kim in P1 with Youngchan Kim in P2. So DCT E-Racing ahead of DCT Racing. closes the gap to 12 points in the championship. J-Hook Klim's Atlas BX Esports team finishes in 3rd place. So 3rd place in the race, 3rd place in the championship, they remain. Solar Indigo Racing, fantastic performance from them, up into P4 for this one. DCT Esports is number 13 car in 5th place, with Team BTC in 6th here today, as they recovered quite well, actually, from those early issues up into that position. Redcon Motorsports in P17, PS31 in P8, Atlas BX E-Racing team in 9th, and Midas Racing in P10 here today. And then you look towards the back of the order, Team PSR in P11 here. Not an ideal run. It seems like yesterday might have been a little bit of a fluke. 2-run in P12 with El Sandia Motorsports in P13 here today. So not ideal as far as their points haul is concerned. Solar Indigo Performance in P14, NJC in P15, and One Racing in P16. Quadro Iran Racing Team in 17th, and E-Euro in P18 at the end of 8 laps of racing. 1 down, 2 more to go. Sawmill, we head to Vegas next.
And that will be a real, what can I say? What's the word I'm looking for right here? Mystery box. That's the word I'm looking for. Because Vegas Oval, first up, you cannot expect anything at an Oval. We've seen the competitive order change so wildly at an Oval. Because, seriously, what is the differentiator, if not setups? And remember, setups in this championship are fixed mostly. Not mostly, 100% they are. So what differentiates whether you're P1 or P2 or maybe even P20? That is how you can work with the draft. How can you work with the teammates? How good is your race awareness? And remember, largely, we haven't done many oval races in the AMX Esports Championships. The influencers, interestingly enough, have got more oval experience than most of the other real-world and sim drivers here. And Korea doesn't even have a big oval culture, by the way. So that's going to be a very big mystery factor of sorts. So how does that play out? Can we see influencers actually be better because of slightly more experience of sorts in an event like this one? Or what about our junior drivers who literally have had, I think, 3 events at ovals like Las Vegas in their championship? Different car, yes, but the basics and the concepts that you use remain the same if the setups are the same, essentially. And so this has got me really intrigued. I'm very curious if some teams will actually pick their influencers for this one or not.
I have to wonder, but remember, unlike most of the oval races that have happened so far, in fact all of them, damage is on. So you cannot rely on getting through incidents, banging walls and other cars to be able to get through on this one. This is slightly different compared to most oval races that we have seen. So, with that in mind, does that change the approach of the drivers, Sawmill? I get the feeling it does. I get the feeling this oval race might hopefully be a little bit calmer than oval races previous.
No, it's an oval race, Connery. It's always going to be crazy in the AMX Esports Championship. And I think we've got that record, haven't we? Where more than around 80% of our oval races have gone in with a caution flag all the time. And that is something that could actually change things up big time, right? Because this is a slightly bigger race. And we've got, pit stops in this one as well. So think of it like a tag team event. How do you cycle back off? Now, in the one oval race that I remember the influencers had previously, we saw that there could be a bit of a gap forming up because certain drivers might make an error here or there at the start. And so you see trains, and once you see trains form up, it's very hard to see 2 trains joined together in an oval race because, as I mentioned, what's the differentiator? Your skill, how fast you can turn left? No, really. So it's all about that start. That start is the most critical aspect right here. If you keep it clean, you could literally be in contention even if you're 6th on the final lap, so long as the train is together.
Yeah, and well, not often that you see GTEs racing at an oval either. So that changes the complexion somewhat as well. Of course, we've had our own share of GT racing. Oh, this is going to be the biggest. Oh. Thankfully, that wasn't going to... I was thinking with the trajectory of those cars there, I was thinking, oh, that's going to be a big one. But yeah, it's, again, we haven't really talked about oval racing all that much very recently here in this series. We have to look back to one of the other, I think the influencer rounds or one of the offline events before to see an oval race, at least in this championship. Of course, we had it in the Junior Cup more recently, but for these guys, these are a little bit of a lottery, aren't they? And the last thing you need in a championship battle is a lottery.
Exactly, and it favors teams that have got teammates. And I will be absolutely stunned to see if the Atlas BX team does not work together. DCT, you know they will. They're just too good, right? They're just too good. They've been too good in this service, and be it road course, be it oval, they've constantly just been in there, even with their influencers, which is amazing to see. But does a team like Atlas BX use its car advantage? And they have to do that, because otherwise their position in qualifying will be bad. They'll be stuck up in the mid-pack, and once you're in the mid-pack in oval, just I don't know, join your hands together and hope for the best. Nothing can save you, it's just the circumstances. You roll with things as they come to you, you can't dictate it, and you've got to be at the top to dictate it. And Atlas BX have that advantage with two cars. Do they use it properly? Even Ulsan DR for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Ulsan, DR, we've got Solite as well. Solite can work together here in this one as well.
Yeah.
They can work together to try and gain themselves a good handful of spots here in this one, and that's going to be so helpful for them over the course of this one. But heading in towards the qualifying session here in just a handful of moments' time. Of course, we do have to wait until everyone has gotten themselves in and, of course, ready in the server before we advance to qualifying. Of course, still open qualifying, the same rules from previous supply, so you'll see a lot of teamwork going on in the qualifying session as well.
And that has to happen. We've just spoken about how good it'll be for teams to work together. But I see something interesting happening. We're seeing a couple of teams, including PS31, is getting a little bit of bump drafting from some other cars here and there. Unlikely partnerships and unlikely friendships are being formed right here. And that is fun to see. And I wonder, have they had a word about it before? Have they spoken to each other? Is this just purely coincidental and they're just getting the best of it?
Yeah, Team PS31 are getting pushed by, I think, a Solite car, at least initially there. There's the two-run car behind them. You can easily tell the two-run car because it is mostly pure white, is that two-run machine. So it's very easy to tell. I like how distinctive the liveries are in this series. You know, you see Team PS31, you can immediately tell it's Team PS31 because they have the whole pastel blue and pink. So, you know, you can immediately tell who they are. You can really immediately tell who One Racing is because they're in the bright yellow. We've got ourselves maybe Euro and Solite a little bit more difficult to tell from each other, but you look at the DCT car, you know that's DCT because it's red and black. You know, there's a lot more variety in terms of the paint. Atlas, they're in the gold and silver in the very shiny cars. So I wish more Western teams took this approach of making their cars just that little bit more distinctive. Team BTC car, the orange and blue, the creative color scheme on that car. You know, you can immediately tell who's who.
And I love it. I love that they've taken their creativity to it. If they wanted to, they just could have kept it very bland, slapped a logo, gone for generic iRacing paint number 3. Oh, they have not. Every single team has just come up with their own style. And I love it. I love the fact that Midas Racing, one of our top partners in this championship, have gone for a gold-plated car. Like, that's just how we roll. That's just our things. And they haven't quite performed to the gold standard, but it stands out, right? And that's what you want. That, again, the commentators are speaking about it. You look at the car and say, right, that's Midas, and that's all you need from your liveries.
So, looks like we got the vast majority of drivers in the session now, so hopefully we will get ourselves started here in just a few moments' time. We can have qualifying's meant to start, well, about a minute ago, so hopefully we'll be able to get going here in just a few moments. And, what will the qualifying hold? Because maybe track position, important, not important here. It really depends on your philosophy and whether or not you'll be able to work together with a good couple of cars to be able to get to the front. You know, in these GTE machines, the draft maybe not as strong as they are in the GT3s, so maybe we'll see less little clumping, but with the amount of full throttle going on around there, it's it's going to be absolutely. Well, it's going to be a case of just trying to find your way through traffic.
Exactly. And how do you find your way past traffic when your car is not significantly better, when you've not got that setup advantage? You, it's about awareness that counts in this race. You cannot be aware enough in this race. Seriously, there's going to be cars around you all the time, especially at the beginning, right? That's a big
Yep.
number of cars altogether. Two maybe at your side, one ahead of you, two behind you as well. You're boxed in, and you can't even go down on the apron for something quite like this one. So just make it easy. And that has to be the thing that wins you. And of course, working together in qualifying. But I wonder who could even take pole position. Doesn't have to be a BTC car this time, or DCT, I'm so sorry. But what really intrigues me, Conry, if there's one race where you can see that gap come down between the DCT cars, it has to be this one.
Yeah. Okay, 10 minutes of qualifying has started here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Cars exiting off of pit lane, a bit of a flashy show of the lights from Atlas BX Esports team as they lead them off. This is going to be one hectic qualifying session here at Sommel. Very, very hectic indeed. And remember, of course, damage is indeed on and fast repairs are not enabled. So you want to be hoping you get your laps in early, just in case you get smashed in the opening few laps here.
Exactly. No, it's not like the old influencer races that we had early on in the year where you can have a crash and still come back and maybe get on the podium. No.
There's a rule. There's a rule against excess flashing, so Atlas BX Esports team has to be a bit careful here, but not leaning on the flashing lights a little bit too much. Ricardo will be very unhappy about that, says they need to be reminded after this race that the excess flashing is against the rules. But look at this train of cars in the second portion of the field, though. This is how you go fast. If you're towards the very back of this one, and you get a clean run through, not having to lift off all that much, that is how you set a fast lap time.
But there's a problem with this train as well, right? Not these drivers, not all of them have had the great amount of oval experience. Wait, what's happened?
Oh, 3 wide, sorry. I'm always sketched out when these guys go 3 wide.
No, exactly my point. That they've not... Yeah, they've saved it. And the fun part is they really haven't done a lot of oval racing. And that's the fact of the matter. So when they go 3 wide, it is totally justified for all of us to be scared. And often in the Junior Cup, we've seen them not last with the train for more than 2 laps. This has to change now. They have to be quick because it's only in your 4th or 5th lap when you really can go the fastest, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So here comes the 2-run car to the inside of...
oh, man.
They're trying to find their positions in the train here, which I am completely fine with. They're wanting to make sure they get the run, but who's getting the run at the moment is that driver of Yun Ho Park. He's parked up right behind this entire train. He doesn't have to lift out for anyone ahead of him, at least right now. He'll be close coming towards the line. This might be a mega lap here from DCTE Racing to extend their pole position advantage. You can see them riding on the limiter all the way up until the line, and that is DCTE Racing going through. Was it a valid lap? Yeah, it was an improvement by about 0.5 of a second, and that is a lot here.
And that's all you need. That's basically all you need because the gap between each car is so limited. 1/10 of a difference between them and Ulsan DR is just everything. And their teammates in the 11. Oh my word, I don't think they've had a competitive lap time either. So there's a reason why they're 7/10 down. But still, this is, again, the most variable of all the races that we could have in the AMX Esports Championship. And with damage on, you could literally be taken out of the race, even though it's not your fault. And you can't even fight back because, hey, what can you even do about it?
And also, remember, damage being on means those engines are going to get hot. Especially if you're running right up behind another car. So you do have to be a little careful of the oil and water temperatures here today. So if I can grab an on board with one of the cars here. Of course, unfortunately, we can't see exact oil and water temperatures here in the spectator session. But you can see on the dash there, one of those values is going to be a water temperature, one of those values is going to be an oil temperature. Keep an eye on those if you're one of the drivers, because if you're stuck up behind a car, right up underneath their back bumper for a little bit too long, going full throttle and maxing out the revs, that's going to be an issue.
I wonder how much performance they will lose and if the engine could even blow out if that's the case, right? That'll be interesting to see someone say in P number 4, just randomly saying, And if they have their engine going off after such a competitive race, that would be cruel. But again,
Yep.
their fault. They didn't read it.
Yeah, well, pay attention to the warning lights, so to speak, and well, we'll get to see ourselves the end of, well, halfway stage of qualifying here in a couple of moments' time. Let's remove that one off because we did have a couple of cars under investigation here at the initial points of this qualifying session. Maybe for a little bit of contact that happened. I didn't quite see it if there was bits of contact. Oh, there's almost bits of contact right now heading up across the line. These guys had to be careful. Remember, it's not like lone qualifying. You can't take the tow back to pit lane and get yourself your damage repaired here. It's so sketchy. But there's the warning for the number 46 Redcon Motorsports car for causing a collision. Didn't see it, but that's supposed to come through from the stewards.
But it's crazy, Conry. We've got 4.5 more minutes of this in qualifying and we're already so worried. We're going to have 20 odd minutes of this in the race. How crazy is that going to be? And look at the order. BTC are in there, Quattro E-Rain are in there, Midas Racing of all teams are 6th. This is just too good to be true in a way. And Yuno has just nailed it in qualifying. I don't think it's going to be beaten.
Yep, I don't think so either. He had the perfect run. Let's not go forward, boys. That would be not ideal.
Yeah.
This is not how to go fast here in qualifying. To go fast, you need to be on the back of this train somewhere, trying to get the run on all of the cars. So I think one of the Solite cars, and maybe this little grouping of 3 with the Team PS31 is probably the best place to be, because you want to have the draft of everyone ahead, yes, but you want the room to be able to carry all of that speed around and not lift out because you don't want to run into the back of the guy ahead of you.
Well, I suppose it's like whoever's at the top of the train is basically saying, well, you can take the draft on me, but I'm not going to give it to you. So they move to the side, and then we see incidents like this one when somebody's 3 wide. And then we get scared, and they line back up. Somebody gets a draft for half a lap, and they say, right, I'm not going to let you go. And this is why the big swerve and the big crash. Imagine a few more of this happening in a race. You can't imagine stuff like that.
DCT Racing were up and over the barrier. They have to take the tow back to pit lane. Thankfully, the tow is instant at least, but hopefully that damage is not too significant to the DCT Racing car. I would have thought it would be, considering the situation. But no, they're back out there with a clean car. So, yeah, I completely misunderstood what the whole repair situation was in open qualifying sessions here on iRacing. We just don't see them all that often, as we see a car with no front end on the bottom of the circuit as well, and they are not the only ones. So maybe damage does maintain here.
Yes, exactly, and that's going to be such a major factor, right? In the straight line, you need your car to be in perfect condition. And if you've got bits missing, well, that's...
on an oval. You can't go down there. The stewards need to tell them that one.
And that'll affect their qualifying laps as well, because if they go down, they're gaining an unfair advantage in a way. So that lap won't count. I wonder how many laps Ricardo will analyze.
Yeah, that's going to be a sketchy one. I'll come through and just let him know of what the situation is there. Make sure those guys can't go below the white line. But yeah, apart from that qualifying session, at the moment is still bubbling along quite nicely. Again, careful about going below the white here. Even though you do have the slipstream, you do have the grip to stay down there, it's still not within the rules to be doing that.
Yeah, exactly. You can't quite do that, and that's the point. It's gaining unfair advantage in a way. You've got to maintain it though. You've got to maintain it. Look at this again. BTC doing something similar. And it's not like they're just dipping slightly down. Wow, they're just cutting the entire course.
Well, I mean, nothing's been able to surpass the time DCT Racing have put right now. As, you're not allowed, theoretically, within the rules of oval racing, not to go down below that white line. So we'll have to be, have to see what the stewards say with regards to that. It was something that has been briefed before all of the oval rounds over the course of this season. There's DCT Racing, though, still out there getting things going. But the thing is, they have no drafting partner, so I'm not expecting them to be able to improve on their position here. But they are back up into P2 now, so that must have happened a little bit earlier on, and they get themselves through.
I don't even know what's the case with these two guys. Whatever car, whatever track, whatever format, they just are 1 and 2 all the time. I don't even know how. And the gap is always under a tenth of a second. Ridiculously close. Crazy. And I wonder how it's going to play out when the tempers flare up, when they're the only two cars on the front row of the grid, and there's everyone challenging behind, and everyone literally has an equal opportunity. Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, here we go. As well, group of cars now going to be heading their way across the line. We are in the final moments of qualifying here for the AMX ESPORTS Championship second offline event round today. The penultimate round of the season. This might be very telling as far as championship is concerned at the end of today. The checkered flag is out. Drivers will indeed be able to complete their laps that they've started here, and then we get ourselves in racing mode for 20 minutes of action at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Let's see if there's any flurry of lap times coming in that will be changing the starting positions here. Not too big of an issue for DCT Racing and DCT Racing at the very front of the field right now, but Team BTC putting in a good qualifying time. They won't be able to finish off their lap though. They go backwards across the tri-oval, and well, that's a lap time invalidated for Team BTC if it was any faster at all. We've got about a handful of seconds left in this session, so we will, of course, get ourselves transferred over into the race session, and then we'll be able to get ourselves started and ready for the penultimate round of the season here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Is the starting grid then? Yunho Park's DCT E-Racing will start on pole position with DCT Racing on the front row as well. A bit of a swap around between those two as far as the pole position was concerned. It was DCT Racing on pole at Silverstone, but it's reversed this time around. Team BTC with a good qualifying start in third, with Alsandia Motorsports in fourth, Quadro E-Rain Racing Team in fifth, Redcon Motorsports in P6. And we'll get ourselves Midas Racing in P7, Atlas BXE Racing Team in P8, DCT Esports in P9, Atlas BX Esports Team in P10, Solar Indigo Performance in P11, Solar Indigo Racing in 12th. And then, of course, the final few cars. We got One Racing, E-Euro, NGC, 2 Run, and Team PS31. PSR starting at the very back of the starting grid here today. We'll get ourselves a full pace lap here in this one as well, Sommel, before we get ourselves racing. But before we do, we have a little bit of news, as we'll get ourselves the warning for the 999 Alsandia Motorsports car for a reckless entry towards pit lane.
And you've got to keep that in mind, because we are going to have a pit stop in this race. We are going to have a driver swap. At some point, we will see another driver tagging in, and those pit entries will matter. And remember, they have to stand in this pit zone that you see right there, the markers, the white ones. They'll have to stand in there, they'll have to tag in, and then they can go into their sim rig. That is going to be a critical moment. How fast can you be there? Because there's barely any repairs going on, right? So it's just literally a driver swap. Yesterday, they were very nonchalant about it. Today, I suppose it's going to be a lot more intense because there's so much on the line.
Onto the back straight they come. You can see the drivers on the right-hand side getting themselves prepared for the proceedings here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll get ourselves one scheduled stop for a driver change in this one. And we'll see how that factors in. Of course, the pit stop's so crucial from a strategy perspective. And, well, these guys certainly keeping that in mind. Get ourselves updated as far as who's in what car in a couple of moments time, but for now it is the two DCT cars with the front row lockout once again, as they've done so many times over the course of this season. Pace car will dive on towards pit lane. It's go on green here in this series. DCT Racing in pole position, waiting for that green flag to show. We're racing here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, as it's side by side between them on the way in towards turn number 1 for the first time. Team BTC looking on the bottom of the track as well. 2 tyres. You can't dip 2 tyres below the white line. You just can't dip all 4 tyres below the white line there. The drivers have now been told that the white line is the track limits, and Team BTC doesn't seem to have gotten the message.
This is dangerous, Connery. This is dangerous. It is reminding me of Nigel Mansell versus Senna France back in the day when the mountain had a black
Ulsan.
flag
DCT are in
and
it.
he interrupted the race.
DCT Esports are in it, and well, DCT Esports down on towards pit lane now. Hee Jung-an
What?
in the 13 car, the DCT Esports car. What's happened to DCT E-Racing? They're stricken.
12. No.
We'll take a look. Was it contact between the two teammates? Was it a chain reaction from what happens to Ulsan on the top of the circuit? Well, that's all you need to know. You know, Park had no idea what hit him.
And
That's
with
the nature
that-
of oval racing, Somil.
That is the nature of oval racing, and with that, it could be championship over. That literally could be championship over, and how much of it is his own fault? And like yesterday, where you
Oh,
could
big
put
wreck
the finger
already.
on him
Another one.
again! What's going on here?
I have no idea, Somil. Another one, Midas Racing involved in that one. We're going to see ourselves another replay of this one. Drivers in over their heads, and also this is why you don't go down to the white line. This is despicable behavior from the drivers, as they have been told this, of course. And now you see the four wides down in towards turn number one. Oh, it was the top of the circuit. So like coming down on their teammate, I think it was. That caused that whole big chain reaction, sending multiple cars into the wall.
I don't even know if anyone's going to be alive at the end, and I'm not saying this in a fun way. This is
Yellow flag.
really a bit of a shame, and thank goodness for the caution. Thank goodness for the caution. This is going to bunch everyone up. Wonder if it really changes things up though, because the damage for DCT E-Racing has been done. Literally, their car is destroyed and they can't fight back. But this opens up so many doors in the championship. My word, one racing in P4, at least BX in P5.
I don't know what else to say, Somil. I don't know what else to say. We got ourselves yellow flag here. Of course, pit lane will be closed for the opening portion of this one, so it should be fine though, because the maximum driver time, you know, that still isn't upon us just yet. So the pit lane being closed for this first lap is not going to matter as far as the as influencing the strategy. And even if it did, I guess there'll be some understanding on the parts of the stewards if we do have a caution during the what is the changeover period for the maximum driving time. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about that, Somil. I just don't know what else to say. DCT, they're E-Racing, they are still on pit lane there. Look, trying to get a good view. There they are. That is not a car that's coming off that pit lane anytime soon.
Yeah, that's done. That's done. That's championship done. And it's such a shame. We all came in with so much of hope and expectation about the number 12, about how they'll be able to challenge potentially, and with something that isn't even 100% their fault. That's the variable of an oval race. That is why it could literally take the table and flip it up, but it works in the 11's favor, and that's where they have been amazing, Conrad. They've just had 9 lives of sorts, made their errors, yes, but not in rounds like this where the variables are bigger and where the points on offer are bigger as well.
Absolutely. It's not done yet though. We've still got one race to
Certainly.
come, but DCT Racing, if they win this one, that will be a big help. If they DNF as well, championship still.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that could happen as well, you know.
We've got lots of penalties coming through, by the way. We've got, under investigation, shall we say, the 12 and the 999 under investigation. That's DCT E-Racing and the 999. So that is the Ulsan Motorsports. That's the incident that took out the championship contender there. So, and we'll get ourselves, it is still the 12 and 999 to be able to answer to the stewards in that situation. And I don't know what, the damage has been done already though, Somil. So I don't know if any penalty for Ulsan is really going to change that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What difference does it make for Ulsan? A little bit because they're of course in a bit of a title fight with Atlas. No, not Atlas BX, but Team BTC. But I don't think Team BTC are going to get away as well. BTC could have a hefty penalty coming their way from second because of them constantly abusing track limits. So even their
Yeah.
position is not secure. And suddenly Redcon Racing, who were 12th in this championship before we started today, my word, Connery, how many points could they earn up? They could suddenly shoot themselves into the top 10.
Could be. Could well be. Pace car lights are still on, by the way, so we're not going green this time around. We might be going green next time by, though, depending on the state of those pace car lights. We can ride on board with DCT Racing to see how their view of the pace car and see if the lights go out this time. They do, so that means we've got one more lap until we're back to green flag racing. Our wonderful producer of the Korean stream coming in and telling us that the Team BTC, with that, if they finish as they are, they've gone to 4th in the championship ahead of Ulsan.
Oh, that is big, but I don't think they will finish as it is. There has to be a penalty coming in. They've been constantly abusing track limits. That's not how it works. And yes, the accident hasn't quite happened because of them, but it makes a difference when someone's constantly just on the inside of the apron. That's not how things work, right? And I suppose they'll still continue doing it. I don't know why.
Well, if it's on them to ignore the race director's statements, then that is them taking that decision, and they will take the punishment as is required. But we are coming towards the end of this caution period, by the way, as we'll get ourselves racing here in just a few moments' time. Remember, it's a maximum of 13 minutes that these drivers can be in those cars. We haven't gotten to that point yet. It's a minimum of 7 minutes, and we're just about, well, we've crossed that already. So pit window is open to try and get yourself that stop done.
And you won't do it now. Of course you won't do it right now. But One Racing have got different pastry one as well. Oh, this is going to be an exciting finish now. This spices things up.
So some drivers, some teams coming down in immediately to try and get themselves the driver change. That includes BTC, it includes DCT Racing as well, coming down in to get their driver changes done. This is a very, very big call from these drivers, and I think it actually works out in their favor. The first lap of running here at Vegas Motor Speedway is going to be the slower one. If you can kind of just cancel that out a little bit as we see the driver change going on right now, then that's going to really work out in your favor. Of those drivers that stayed out, Team PS31 stayed out, 2-Run stayed out, same with One Racing and NJC. We're seeing yet more drivers come down in at this at the end of this first lap of going back to green. Atlas BXE Racing Team, one of them. It's a hectic, well, it's a bit hectic on pit lane at the moment.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Conry. I suppose it's the drivers who took their stop in the first lap that would be the smarter way on, because of course part of that first lap was under caution, and plus you're also just gaining speed. Lap number 2, you are faster, you get more momentum. I don't think it's going to work out in the favor of those drivers who have gone longer, but hey, let's wait and watch. I'd love to be proven wrong in this case.
Also, pitting now and getting yourself into your own bit of space is going to help, because you're much less likely to be involved in a big incident like we saw a couple of them at the very start of this race. So that's going to be beneficial in terms of splitting up this field and making sure everyone's able to run, if not on their own, they're in a little bit of a smaller group, so that these guys can have their own bit of space to run in. Let's have a look back towards the live pictures then, because Team BTC and DCT Racing, they came down on towards the pit lane together. They were P1, P2 under the safety car, and now they're P5 and 6, effective race lead and P2 on the track right now.
And it's good that BTC are not cutting the corners again. I think they've got that message and they have worked on it, but they've still got this space, and that's the amazing part, right? They've got a partner, and that is why it works. That is why both of them will be gaining time and not losing it.
Got ourselves a penalty for, I can't believe we missed this, but 47 backwards in pit lane, giving a warning. That's Team PSR. So PSR went from our wonderful superstars of yesterday to doing some pretty silly things today. It's just the way things change in terms of that one. But we're under the halfway point now. Yet more cars have headed their way down in to get themselves their final stops underway. That is Team NJC Jay Jones behind the wheel of that car. He'll be changing over once he gets himself into his pit stall there. NJC coming down in, getting himself stopped, and there we go. So not the fastest way of getting into pit box. He actually has to roll forwards a little bit to make sure he gets in there. Side by side on the pit lane though, between the One Racing and Team PS31. They're absolutely level coming in.
The American broadcasters would call it as the race down pit road, but yeah, for them it's all totally okay. But I give them a special award, right? Don't give PSR a penalty, give them a special award. I want to see how you can actually go backwards in the pit lane, much like how you can keep up an intense battle like this for so many laps, but they will still have to. ETC, outside or inside this time, but drafting seemingly is the way.
ETC have to be worried about their engine temperatures doing that too often though. So again, have to be careful about it. You can't really miss a high oil or high water temperature warning in these cars. It is pretty obvious when it starts to happen. So any flashing on the dashboard or any red on the dashboard certainly is not a good thing happening to your car right now. So that's what they have to be conscious of. Although they have had the chance to run under the safety car for a few laps, so that will have cooled the engines down a little bit from the very start of the race. But Team BTC, with what they're doing right now, they just have to be careful about it. It's just like super speedway racing in the NASCAR world.
Yeah, and they've still got a long while to go until this race ends, right? 8 more minutes, and you just keep on lapping, literally in a circle, right? You're going round and round and round and round on each lap, looking for an opportunity in that time. It's so easy to forget warnings like that one. Let's see what they've got in store now.
Here we go then. Team beat the championship. Well, they haven't exactly beaten the entire championship in this one. They're not in the championship fight, but they gain a whole bunch of points from this race. If they finish where they are, they finish ahead of Ulsan DR Motorsports in the points order. If they finish where they are now, and that will promote them up into 4th place in the championship, which is a healthy prize money boost as well.
Certainly is, and it makes a world of difference. I mean, at the end of the day, there is an element of pride that you're racing for, but there's also so much fun financially. Look at the prize pool. You always want more, and BTC recognizes that. Again, if they win, they get a currency that's literally in their name, BTC, the bitcoins. But I suppose they have to time their win properly. Doesn't make sense to pass right now, and I think they realize it.
Yeah, coming up to 6.5 minutes to go. Still lots of time, lots of laps still remaining here in this one. So Team BTC don't need to make a move immediately. I mean, they might make a move for the sake of making sure they get clear air and they can cool the engine down. But then again, they can just run along the top line for a few laps, or rather a lane up, get their engine cooled, and then dip back in the slipstream whenever they need to. So that's the situation for them. But with everyone having their pit stops done, by the way, that has, with the pushing that Team BTC has doing to DTT Racing, it has put them ahead of the rest of the pack by quite a large margin. The closest cars are these two, P3 and P4. Redcon Motorsports and Atlas BX Esports team about 3 seconds-ish behind at this point. So it's a battle of 2 pairs, actually, Somil. It's DCT and Team BTC versus Redcon and Atlas BX just coming through that turn 2 now in the background.
Yeah, exactly. And now with this approach that they've taken, they've secured their positions, and that's an amazing thing to see how DCT and BTC have been able to work this out. Let's see if the battle in the background is just as competitive. Remember, Atlas BX also have a lot to play for today. They could be eventually ending up, if the 12 has an even worse influencer race, potentially maybe even be number 2 in the title. Who knows? So there's a lot to play for still.
Yeah, still a lot to play for. They're in still P4 at the moment. Ulsan DR Motorsports, they're down P18, so they're losing a whole bunch of points. Team BTC, they're in 2nd place, so let's see how that changes the points order. Of course, DCT Racing would still lead at the moment with, of course, that is pretty obvious. They are on 257 points. DCT E-Racing still maintaining their 2nd place, though, with 231, as they have to avoid a slow car on the inside. But they deal with that in quite comfortable fashion. Atlas BX Esports will be still in 3rd place with where they finished. They're on 207 points, but the change will be for P4 as Team BTC are now 2 points ahead of Ulsan DR Motorsports for that position.
To play for here in this final round, and I suppose all the teams and drivers are recognizing the need to be patient. At this stage, it won't make sense to pass. You want to be second on the final lap because then you can channel that draft and then you can head in there and take the win on the final lap. If there's one lap where you actually have to make a move, it has to be the final lap because otherwise you're prone to an attack all the time. That's the way it is in these races.
Yeah, it is. And well, for Team BTC, they find themselves in potentially a race-winning position again. Remember, they got themselves their first win of the championship at Interlagos, I believe
right.
it was. It was a fantastic occasion for those guys. They might be able to bag themselves another win here today in the offline event, which they will be absolutely ecstatic about due to the points delta it'll give them to Ulsan.
That's what they need. This is literally just what the doctor ordered for them. Carry on and just keep the position as it is. They don't need to necessarily win it. And that's the important part because Ulsan are, well, literally nowhere to be seen, right? So even P2 works. And they should recognize that in the hunt for P1, they shouldn't sacrifice what is already a really, really good P2. And that's going to be the important part.
It really is. So we're in a little bit of a holding pattern right now. Not because we're literally going in circles, except on the ground instead of in the air. But but we're just sort of waiting and watching to see what the situation is going to be coming in onto that final lap. It's got to be a final lap thing at this point, Somil. And you can see that Atlas BX just sort of exploring on that outside line and saying, okay, where can I potentially get a run? Where can I, if I get past through, say, turn 3 and 4, am I going to have enough speed to beat the car ahead of me to the line on the inside? That's the question that they're asking. I'm seeing a lot more movement here in this battle for 3 and 4 than I am seeing in the battle for 1 and 2. So maybe Atlas BX here, knowing that, okay, this has to be a lap over in the final lap here. I'm seeing where I'm fast. I'm seeing where I need to time it to be able to get through.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. They're scouting their way past, understanding the lines, understanding if their car is comfortable enough in that position. And they've got to do that. I mean, what else have they got in the bag, right? You can't just be banking on that final lap and hoping that, yes, it will come off perfectly. And I wonder, are they leaving a bit too much? Because often we see old racing with stock cars and with Indy cars, and we know that they're very draft susceptible, right? And we know that the draft will be good enough for them to make a move. Is that the case with the GTE, though? I mean, it's an unknown commodity, right? Because we never really do this.
Yeah, it really is. And, these cars are very aerodynamic, shall we say, in terms of they generate a lot of downforce. And downforce isn't necessarily the thing you need at a fast oval such as this one. You kind of want to be taking all of that downforce off and trying to get that car as slippery as possible. So when these cars second in line do step out into the clear air, they're going to slow down because of the drag a lot more than what a NASCAR would, for example. So they need to try and time it to perfection. They might even need to drop back a little bit on the second to last lap to be able to build up the speed behind the car in front of them to get themselves the momentum on that final lap.
Exactly, and I wonder if they're aware of this, because they don't often do this. Right? They're mostly road course drivers, as everyone is. I mean, no, not everyone, but most people are, let's say, outside of the US. And that's going to be a tricky thing for them, knowing that. And I think they're doing something similar, Connery. Yep. They are dropping off that a little bit. Oh, that's smart. Someone's done their homework.
Yeah, Team BTC, of course, they fell back behind because of the lapped car situation. What do they do on the penultimate lap now? As well, this is actually the penultimate lap. I think this is going to be the one to go as they head their way across the line. So on to the final lap then. It's a 34-second lap time here. They cross the line with 26 seconds left remaining. So this is the final lap here. Where does Team BTC make that move? Where do they try to squeeze their way through? Through 3 and 4 towards the line? Which way is it going to be for these drivers? I do not know. Through NASCAR's turn 3 and 4 for the final time in this event. Checkered flag is now out. BTC to the high side. They're trying to find a line. I don't think they'll have the speed to the line though. DCT Racing take a crucial race win here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Redcon Motorsports in the secondary battle. They hold on to P3, but a maximum score for DCT Racing and a minimum for DCT E-Racing. That's a big swing. DCT Racing have one hand on the championship trophy.
I'd say one hand, three fingers, and a thumb. That's how good they are right now. It is all just down to that one final race. And it would take a swing of these proportions for the 12 to win the championship now, Conry. It can happen. If it can happen to the 12, it can certainly happen to the 11. And I'm not, of course, hoping for that, but it is possible. It is just as chaotic. And remember, the influencers take part in the next one. And so the variables, well, they'll just be that little bit bigger.
Yes, they will be. So let's have a look at the race results then from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway here for the penultimate round of the AMX Esports Championship. A lot has happened over the past 2 days. A lot has just happened in that particular race. But we do, of course, have to recap the results here as it'll be DCT Racing taking the race win here today with Team BTC getting a well-deserved second place. Redcon Motorsports with a P3 podium for Redcon. That's fantastic in terms of their journey up the points order. Atlas BX Esports team will finish in 4th. One Racing in 5th with Team PS31 in 6th place. Looking back through the order, we get ourselves Atlas BX Esports team in 7th, DCT Esports in P8 for the number 13 car, 2Run in P9, 9, excuse me, with TE Euro in P10 here today. Looking at the bottom of the order, though, NJC in 11th with Team PSR in 12th, Solar Indigo Racing in P13, Quadro Iran Racing Team in P14 with Solar Indigo Performance P15, Midas Racing in 16th with DCT E-Racing. A disappointing 17th place. It just wasn't their fault whatsoever either, which makes it the worst thing. Ulsandia Motorsports P18 at the very back of the order. So, we are done here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and a big change has happened as far as the championship picture is concerned heading into our final race. Our final race, the 3-driver event, will be at Le Mans, the home of endurance racing. There it is. Yeah, Samuel, this one is going to be interesting.
It's going to be a proper test of the skill of everyone. Le Mans itself is hard enough, but now you have the added variable, the added factor of the influencers. They have to drive. And the reason why I am so fixated on them is because the pace differential can often be so huge. But yesterday, Connery, we saw something special. The first time that the influencers raced on a road course with walls. Of course, the walls at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve are much, much closer than they are at Le Mans, but they were able to make it work. They were able to make it clean. So that cleanliness factor is, I think, going to be okay. But what about the pace factor? Now is where it really counts. The final race of the season, the biggest points that you can earn anywhere, it all comes down to this one. How much have you practiced with your influencer?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, however, this is not over in terms of the championship. 35 points are possible over the course of this event. 35 points. The gap between the P1, P2 in the championship is less than 35 points. I think it stands at about 26 points at the moment. So it is still a very slim chance for DCT E-Racing to win this championship, but you got to take all that you can get here, Somil. That's your only option.
You've got to give it. You've got to go all out right here, which is going to be even more fun. I suppose so far, and again, it's a shame that the language barrier exists. Otherwise, we could have spoken to DCT directly. But you somewhat get a feeling that the championship nerves might have got to them, to the E-Racing team, the number 12, because Yuno Park made a couple of errors yesterday. Today, of course, not his fault at all. But maybe because of things like that, they eventually ended up causing an error for themselves. And now that that pressure will be gone, now that they know that mathematically it's looking very hard for them to actually win, maybe they can go all out. And sometimes being relieved from that pressure is the trigger you need to go even faster. Maybe that was what was locking up Yunho Park.
Yeah, at this point, with being, of course, 26 points ahead at this stage. 26 points. That is a significant margin, and at this point, if DCT Racing finish any higher than what 12th, 11th,
Yeah.
there's no way for DCT Racing to get back into it.
That's going to be the fun part. You need a shift of dramatic proportions, much like what we saw in the second race of today, for something quite like that to happen. And DCT, my word, then they are in a really sticky spot if you're the e-racing team. For the racing team, yeah, all well, just keep on doing what you're doing. Your pace, even if they drive conservatively, Connery, that's the beautiful part. The 11 and 12 are so quick. Even if they drive conservatively, they will be 1 and 2. That is how superb it is, regardless of whatever car you give them. And so that is why I think things are just playing more and more and more to the 11's hands. Unless something really crazy happens, which is unlikely, I don't think that things are going to go to the way of 12 now.
Yeah, and well, drivers getting the situation sorted for this 3-driver event. Remember, 3-driver event, so 2 scheduled stops inside of 30 minutes. And, all 3 competitors from each team have to compete. So the real driver, the sim driver, and the influencer. We're ready to go at 25 past the hour, which is a couple of minutes' time for our final qualifying session. And remember, they're only going to get 1 or 2 laps out of this due to the lap length here at Le Mans.
That's a biggie, right? Le Mans, what is it? 14 kilometers, is it? It's one of the longest circuits in the world. Literally only second behind the Nordschleife. And I love it. It's such a driver's challenge, even though a lot of it is just a long straight. The corners, this section, the Porsche curves followed by the Ford chicanes. That is a true test of your driving ability. And even after that, this front stretch, after you're done with it, the S's are so deceptive. You feel like you can carry more speed, but the corner just snaps on you and goes away. It's a far better circuit than most people give it credit for, really. Le Mans is just amazing.
Yep, it really, really is. And, we'll see a lot of slipstreaming and a lot of passing down into those 2 Mulsanne chicanes here in this one. I get the feeling as there's a driver going off here, but it's practice session, so it's not going to matter all that much in the grand scheme of things here. But yeah, you still only get 10 minutes to work with here at a very, very long lap time. We're going to see current best laps in practice are sort of around about 4-minute mark. So 4 minutes to be able to do a lap. So you get 4 minutes on an out lap, 4 minutes on a flying lap, and you just cross the line, and then you have the option of doing another lap after that point. So that's not a lot of time to get things done.
Yep, it's usually one and done qualifying right here. It's such a big lap time. I think in Le Mans as well, they had this hyperpole kind of thing, right, for the 24 hours where you've got one lap time that really counts. And it's such a big circuit. There's always going to be some more time that you can find somewhere. And that's why qualifying here has to be a driver's worst nightmare if you feel even slightly anxiety. Because seriously, if you've only got one lap and you've got so many corners, you will definitely feel like you could have done something better at that corner, maybe this corner, maybe the exit, maybe this, maybe that. You just have to deal with yourself first to clock in a good lap time here.
Yeah, absolutely, as we'll get ourselves changed on over into qualifying mode. Drivers will be getting themselves out there now on their warm-up laps. And, well, this is one of the qualifying sessions amongst the entire season where you have to absolutely be laser focused. I think the only one equivalent to this would probably be Bathurst because of the similarly slim opportunities to try and get yourself a lap time in due to the lap time there. But the water are a lot closer at Bathurst than they are here. But you can't afford to make a mistake here in this qualifying session. Otherwise, you will be shuffled towards the very back on the start. And, well, someone's already had themselves a bit of a spin. Team BTC.
Yeah. Team BTC, fresh off a really good second place. And I wonder why they didn't attack. Was it just them being a bit too hopeful about the car's potential to draft their way up on the final lap? Whatever it is, there is an opportunity this time. And right now, it's going to be more on the skill, less on where you really qualify. And in this case, Team BTC haven't quite been the best but they find themselves in a crunch situation because they are fighting a bit of a title fight in the mid-pack. And so I wonder, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the interaction between the two of BTC and El Santiago Motorsports over the course of this race. If the championship picture doesn't change, then certainly that's going to be one of the main battles that we will have to talk about here, as it is for a significant prize. But for now, we're continuing to see those cars get themselves their outlaps done, and we can so we can get ourselves the opportunity just to talk about a little bit about the immense history that this racetrack has. Of course, most famous for hosting the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the most famous endurance racing race that there is to have existed. And well, even if you talk to people who are non-motorsports fans, then they'll probably be able to pick out the 24 Hours of Le Mans from their heads as well. Of course, taking place in Le Mans in France. Of course, you know, it's a crown jewel of motorsports here at that particular race. Of course, it's a multi-class event in the real world. Of course, we only have a single class of cars taking part here today with these GT3 machines, the BMW M4 GT3s at this moment in time. So a little bit of a change from that. And of course, we only have 30 minutes of racing here today. Of course, you know, previously at Le Mans, you would have what's called a Le Mans start, which is, well, very different from the start of any motor race that you'll be seeing nowadays. And of course, they don't do the actual Le Mans start nowadays either, where the drivers have to line up on the opposite side of the starting grid compared to where their cars are, and they have to run across the racetrack to be able to get in their cars, get strapped in, and to get going for the start of the race. Of course, they don't do it nowadays because there were certain safety concerns brought up, that the drivers were not buckling themselves in properly to be able to get going on for the race. So that's why they stopped doing the Le Mans start. Of course, you know, it's not something that we can model here on iRacing, Somil, but it's certainly a piece of motorsports history.
And I wonder if we could do something quite like that. We've seen a couple of other racing simulators have animations.
I know. What you do is you do a normal standing start in iRacing. You get all the drivers to line up on the other side of the hall, and they have to run to their sim rigs.
Oh, yes, that's a good idea. That'll be fun. Or maybe if you're just doing it online, just keep pressing X like those old WWE games, right? If you want to power out of a wrist lock, you just keep on pressing the A button, the X button, whatever it might be. And the one who does it fastest is the one who runs quickest. That's... yeah, but for this event, I hope they actually do that, right? Just everyone standing in their pit boxes, run to it, and let's start.
Yeah, that's the way we could possibly do a Le Mans start here. Of course, it's a little bit too late to try and organise that. As far as I literally just thought of that right now. So
good idea.
I wonder if the guys at, because obviously Le Mans have their own sort of esports series as well. I wonder if they can do it there whenever they do an in-person event. That would be super crazy to see. Yeah, coming up towards 5 minutes to go left in the qualifying session. And the reason why we haven't seen any lap times be set just yet is because, well, it takes that long to do an out lap, and it takes that long to do a flying lap here in this one. So the lap times will come more towards the sort of back end of the session here. Those drivers that will be lucky enough to complete their first lap, they will have another lap to be able to get in and improve their time. But for those that make a mistake and either have to take the tow back to pit lane, get back out there, do another out lap, or have their first lap invalidated, they will have only one lap left to qualify, and so like just get confused by the NGC car that has an instant ahead of them, and that is a lap invalid by Solite. It's in their best interests to continue on because of the no damage and get across the line before time expires.
And you mentioned a really good point, Conry. You mentioned the word lucky enough to finish a lap. Sometimes it could be just that. The track is unforgiving, as we just saw right there. The walls in many places are very close. And even though many corners look very similar and very simple in nature, as I mentioned, they can be deceptively fast or deceptively slow in that case. And there's a tendency to overdo it at this circuit. And that is going to be wild.
It is absolutely be pretty wild, especially here coming down the Mulsanne Straight during the race, where all the cars will be no doubt swarming on a first lap. And you know, this is where a lot of the slipstreaming, a lot of the overtaking moves will happen. And of course, you know, it's an absolute sight to see when we get actual endurance racing here with, what, 60 cars heading down that pit straight all at the same time. You know, on the camera, which shows you the whole straight, you just see cars as far as the eye can see. Of course, not that many taking part here in this one, but it's one of the charms of this track under normal scheduling. But it is also great for these sorts of championship finales as well. The draft and the slipstream, a big equalizer to make things just that little bit closer.
But that's the thing, right? With the GT3s, the draft is there, but it's not quite the biggest thing in the world. We saw something similar with the GTEs at the Oval as well, that you can't bank on it that badly, be the one making an overtake. I mean, certainly you need it to be in competition, right? Without it, you'll be so far back down, but it's something like a necessity. It's not a want, it's more of a need. And so I don't think that people will have to be able to make passes just purely on the draft. It'll take a lot more than that, again, which is what we need in a championship finale, right? You want to see driver skill and capability come down to it eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's ideal of what we're seeing, but the thing is, we've kind of had a championship basically decided based off of one incident right now. It's it's not what you like to see, but however, that's what happens sometimes, you know. Championships based off of one result and one moment. Midas Racing having a spin through Indianapolis there. That's not going to be ideal, and hopefully they can get to the line. They should be able to get to the line from there and then start another flying lap. So it's not a huge issue for them. They're way more than halfway through the lap there. But we are coming towards the end of the session now. Still no lap times have been set. And I get the feeling one of the first ones might be the DCT Racing number 11 car as they're heading the way through the Porsche curves for the final time. Of course, BMW and the BMW dealership is sponsoring this series, so maybe I can't say Porsche curves, but that's what I did. I've just said it. But there we go. First couple of lap times coming through. Redcon Motorsports setting the early pace as the fastest runner so far.
Connor, you've just done a Mario Balotelli. Like, he I mean, I remember once in an interview he said, the season was an explicative. And then he asked, well, can I say the explicative? And then someone said, no, you can't. He said, oh, explicative. So he basically, in a bit to not say it once, he said it twice. Well, but again, it's this circuit. It is literally amazing that you have so many brands represented here as well. Again, BMW, the BMW curves and the BMW chicanes, followed by the BMW S's, and I don't know, just making things up as I say here.
Yeah, so only 3 cars so far have actually set themselves a time. So the drivers that haven't had the best of luck in terms of getting their position on the starting grid for this one. We've only got about 40 seconds left in the session. However, drivers that are on a flying lap, when this session ends, or when the clock ticks to 0, they will still be able to finish their lap. So don't worry, we won't just have 4 drivers that have set themselves time so far. Hopefully we get a handful more by the time the session actually transfers over into race mode.
And that'll be fun. I want to see what the pace differential over here is like, because it's such a big gap, and now Shinchan has made a bit of an error. I love it. Now, did you guys also have Shinchan back in the UK? Because
no.
It was a hot favorite back here.
No, I don't think we did, in fact. As DCT E-Racing, they came across the line just as time expired. So I'm not sure whether or not Lovely Cha-Cha has been able to actually set a time here. And, well, she has been able to set a time, of course, but whether or not she'll be able to get an extra lap, that's a different issue. So, well, she's continuing on, so she's acting like she does have another lap to work with here. So that's, you know, maybe she knows something that we don't. We didn't actually see her actively cross the line and see what the time was coming across the line. But drivers, we have about 5 minutes of getting ourselves, well, 5 minutes of the sort of cooldown of the session to get over with. And during this cooldown, they can, of course, complete their laps. If they're valid, of course, because that might be one of the things that, you know, meant that some drivers didn't set themselves a time at the very start of this session, is getting an incident. So that still applies here at the Circuit of the South.
I mean, damage might be off, but incident points still are, right? That's
Yep.
the main thing, and that's such a good point. So they'll have to deal with that. And already 1 second between Ulsan Dia and Redcon, and then PSR a couple of seconds back. Let's see, the times are going to come up. This basically is not a 10-minute qualifying session, is it? It's essentially,
Yeah.
what, 14, isn't it, in
Yeah.
a way?
Essentially, but it uses the same sort of open qualifying rule as F1 does, where checker flags out,
Yeah.
but you finish your lap. Of course, that hasn't always been the case over the course of the entire season, because of course we've having to be used during the online rounds. We were having to use heat racing to set the grid for the second races in those. So therefore, with iRacing, you cannot have a open qualifying session in a heat race that then also allows drivers to finish their lap. So it's a bit of a different situation there. But we've got 6 qualifiers so far, and there's a group of cars coming towards the end of their laps here. So this is Ulsan Dia Motorsports. We've got Redcon coming towards the end of their lap as well. Redcon's lap I don't think is going to be valid, because we think we saw them go off through the first sector. So, well, they're still provisional pole position, which is pretty good going for Redcon Motorsports. What about Ulsan Dia Motorsports, though? Because they're embroiled in the fight for P number, well, they're embroiled in the fight in the championship with Team BTC for P4. So they're wanting to get as far up the field as is possible. They take their routes down on towards the pit lane. They won't be able to complete it. Not that the lap time would have been quick either way from KM.
KM has usually been one of the better influencer drivers that we've had so far this year. KM, I remember Garrod, Soy, and lovely Chacha also in there. And speaking of her,
Soy having an incident. Oh, there is Atlas BX Esports team setting themselves a time at the very dying moments of the session. Is anyone else out there that's able to set a time? Here's Quadro Irene Racing team. They are coming towards the end of that lap now, and with the situation as it is right now, even setting a lap will make you start mid-pack at this point. So that's the situation. So Yunki Ride coming across the line then. Is his lap time valid? A 1:18.1. Let's wait and see. It is valid. So he gets up to P8. Even though he's 15 seconds behind the leader, there's Team BTC. That's a crucial time that they've set there to be able to get themselves at least on the front portion of the starting grid in that battle with Ulsan Dia.
setting the lap time here, it's so critical. Go slow, but just get it done. They're already so much better than all the other teams who have to get back in. And it is such an important part. It's the influencers. That's why the gaps are so wild. Because these guys don't do it for a living, right? The real world and the sim drivers do. For them, it's just not even a hobby. It's just like a passion project, this one, that they've come across. And they're trying to work on this one. And their efforts are still quite crazy. But let's wait and watch now. So I am deciding not to continue on.
Yeah, so some drivers deciding that they want no further part in this qualifying session. NJC, I believe they're not on the lap here. We still have about 2 minutes to wind down here in this one. 2 minutes to go here. Of course, we've had penalties and investigations come through. We have the 999 with the warning come through. That's the Ulsan Dia Motorsports car for causing a collision. And remember, that's our qualifying session done. There we go. That was unexpectedly quick, but we get ourselves transferred over into the next session. And, well, we'll get ourselves the starting grid for the final race of the season then here at Le Mans in the AMX Esports Championship. Let's take a look. It is Redcon Motorsports on the pole position for this one, with Ulsan Dia Motorsports on the front row as well. Team PSR's Garrod in P3 with Atlas BX Esports team in P4. DCTE Racing start in 5th with Team BTC in 6th place. Solar Indigo Racing in P7 with Solar Indigo Performance in P8. Yunki Ride from Quadro Iran Racing Team in P9. Unfortunately, there were some drivers that weren't meant to be part of this session. Some staff members, perhaps, that accidentally joined as drivers, which is why they're showing on our starting grid. But there's Soy from DCT Racing in, well, technically P12, but put a P10. Midas Racing further back. NJC in P14. 2Run in P15. Atlas BXE Racing Team in P16. And One Racing Soa there down at the very bottom end of the starting grid. So here we go then. It's been a long time waiting until this point, Somil. It's been many months since that sort of April, June time when we were starting the season, and we're in October now, towards the end of October, and we've got our final race about to get going.
This is it then. I was always wondering, what will that final offline event be like? What will that final influencer race be like? Where everything is a big variable, everything is a big question mark. In the middle of this race, for most teams that is, you will have the influencers come up and do their laps. And we already saw Connery. Doing a lap here at Le Mans is hard enough. And especially if you try to do it clean, the gaps are mighty. Not DR mighty, who unfortunately aren't here, but they are mighty big. So for them, it's going to be such a big swing. At the circuit seal Villeneuve, it was fine, maybe 3 seconds, 4. Over here, there's a potential of 15 seconds worth of variance in one lap. And these drivers will have to be there for at least 2 or 3 in the middle. I do not even know what's going to happen. Maybe we could even see the 12 fight back. Maybe. Fingers crossed. But this is bound to be a crackerjack. Regardless of whether you get to see the championship order upset, I know for a fact that this race will be close. Objectively, it's going to be fun.
I think so too. We're underway under the formation lap then. So the drivers, on this formation lap, they'll be heading their way through the Porsche curves and then into the Ford curves, two manufacturers that don't sponsor this series. Of course, shout out to BMW, Kolon Motors, as we'll get ourselves ready to start this final event. And a very nervous time for those drivers, no doubt whatsoever, as they look to see what's ahead of them here. We'll get ourselves, of course, the flyby by the French Air Force to start this event in a couple of moments' time. We'll get ourselves all set for racing here at Le Mans. I certainly can't wait to get going in this situation. But what's going to happen here at the end of 30 minutes of racing? And that's the question as they head their way into the coming up into the Ford curves in just a couple of moments' time. Redcon and Ulsan DR Motorsports are the cars that are on the front row right now. PSR in third place, looking to try and return to the form that they had at the very start of these two offline events across the 2 days of competition. The prize pool, 1 Bitcoin, about $60,000 up for grabs at the end of this race. Pace car pulls in, field under the control of the Ulsan DR Motorsports car and the Redcon car, and we're going green flag racing here at Le Mans for the final time in the AMX Esports Championship. Ulsan DR Motorsports get the jump over Redcon in towards Dunlop for the first time. On the brakes into the first corner, Redcon's forced their way to the inside. Ulsan DR Motorsports have overcommitted. There's a spin in the background there. I believe it's 2 run out into the gravel, as it's still an overlap between the 2 race leaders as they go down through the S's for the first time here. And it's also Atlas BX Esports team that have been able to get themselves up to the field. Contact with Ulsan forces Ulsan DR Motorsports wide. That's a gift for Team BTC in the championship, as Atlas BX Esports team now lead.
That is a biggie. And suddenly, Redcon Motorsport are up in B number 3, but they got a slowdown. Of all the things in the world, on the longest straight in the world, Redcon Motorsport got a slowdown. And watch them tumble, already from 2nd to 8th.
And it's a first lap slowdown as well, Somil. The worst kind of slowdown, as it has no lap time or no sector time for it to base itself off of the penalty. So it just gives you the maximum possible. And it's just I'm not sure for Redcon, how far they're going to drop back through the order. They're back in P8 at the moment, so P8 for Redcon. I don't know whether they'll have to drop back any further. It doesn't look like they're going to have to, but single file down the Mulsanne here, down into the second of the 2 Mulsanne chicanes. Atlas BX Esports team lead at the moment as there's an instant behind. Big ping backed into the wall. Ulsan DR Motorsports are involved in it, and Team BTC are also in it as well. Remember, there's no damage, so they can get back going. BTC spin the right way. They can get going as quick as possible, but Ulsan are struggling in the wall as they have to get turned around again. This is Team BTC now taking 4th in the championship if it finishes as it is.
And PSR are third, Connery. PSR are third, and they haven't got like the worst of gaps in the world as well. So maybe if PSR can do something special in this race, maybe if they can win it, I don't know how things can go, but things are not looking so good for them heading wide.
That's what happened there. Team BTC had nothing to do with that one. We'll wind it back just a little bit further to see what happens, because there was the run by, I think, one of the Solite cars to the inside. Ulsan Motorsports, oh, they don't move. It was Solite just coming to the right slightly, collects Team BTC in that as well. But Team BTC with the car control are able to get it pointed in the right direction at the end of the spin and back going as Ulsan Motorsports had to turn around in front of traffic. That is a little bit of luck working in the favor of Team BTC there, but you don't always get lucky.
You don't always get lucky, but it's such a long race that things could change again in this one. So watch out for that one.
Oh, spin.
It's not the ordered existingly. Spinner in the back.
There's the real-life driver Sung Yong Kang in the Solite Indigo Performance car having a spin at the very back of the field there, down in towards P number 12. Let's see exactly what happened to the number 87 machine coming to the end of the Mulsanne into Mulsanne, well, not into Mulsanne, excuse me, this is in towards Indianapolis. Towards the insides they go, I think, on the Midas car, and yeah, just get the car spun around with the contact and the commitment. Careful with the rejoin. But yeah, a little bit chaotic this first lap, Samuel.
It's a little bit too much chaotic, too chaotic for my taste, to be honest with you. There's just so much going on, and nobody was able to make it work. Literally no one was able to make it work out perfectly apart from the 9 and Connery. This is imperative for the 12 to win right now. They have to do everything that they possibly can. For the 9, for the Atlas BX team, I suppose it's all settled in, isn't it? Because for them right now, there's no major challenger for P number 3. So what this really means is that the 12 has to beat the 9 and then hope for the best to see what kind of a race the 11 can have potentially.
Yeah, because right now, championship standings, DCT Racing win by 9 points. So DCT Racing win by 9 points in the championship if they come across the line in this order. This is such a crucial thing for 12 now, because if they come first place and DCT Racing remain in P number 9, they're still not quite going to get there. If they win this race, they need DCT Racing to fall from P9, some form, some fashion, to be back in it.
Exactly that. This is the situation that they are stuck in right now. They've got to witness. And speak of the devil.
No.
Speak of the devil.
That might change the championship. That's a drive-through penalty for DCT Racing. It will file them towards the back of the order, and they might lose enough positions for E-Racing to have an opportunity at this.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's the championship. That's it swinging back into the 12's hands. When it suddenly was all going away, and they made contact with 2-run as well.
Oh, they're not doing themselves any favors as far as the stewards are concerned. Let me tell you that, Samuel. We thought it was done and over at Vegas when DCT E-Racing got involved in that big instant, but it might have swung again. You can't write this stuff, Samuel.
I thought you were just lying when you said that there is a chance at Le Mans. I was literally saying, come on, there is no chance that stuff like that could happen. And all of a sudden, the door is not just open, it's been bashed up. Not by DCT E-Racing, but by DCT Racing themselves.
DCT Racing are thankful that it happens early on in the race, so they have time to recover from this one, but they can't afford to put a foot wrong this point forward. And if DCT E-Racing get up into P1, that's going to be them in an even worse situation.
Yeah, no, exactly. But we know that the 11 car, the DCT Racing team, have the capability to recover. Luckily, time is on their side, but influencers are also involved in this. And now the 12 is going into the lead.
Yeah. DCT E-Racing looking for the race lead over at this BX Esports team. They need to keep themselves clean as well. In towards the kink, into Indianapolis. It's side by side for the race leads in the early portions of the final race of the season. This BX Esports team keep themselves ahead up in towards Arnage now. Through Arnage they come, and DCT E-Racing still behind, but most importantly, they are keeping themselves in this one. Of course, the P1 is ideal. They could theoretically win this from P2, depending on how far DCT Racing fall back.
And they will fall back a long way through. Pit window is open right now as well. The 12 attack, the 12 surge is past. Or does it?
Through by half a car length through the apex of the corner. They'll get to the inside for the next part of the curves as that Atlas BX into the wall. Oh, Atlas BX falling back to second place. DCT E-Racing up to first. They got to be so careful with those passes though, because they can't afford to get themselves a penalty themselves.
They certainly can't. Everyone is on the fringes. Literally everyone is on the fringes right now in this race. It's all coming down to this one. And troubles for 2 runs just get better. Worse, I'm sorry. Wrong word that slipped out of my mouth. No. So sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. We've all made those mistakes. But 2 run, yeah, exactly what's happened here. Oh, up over the grass on the inside. And if there's one thing you don't want to do is get into the grass and get into the gravel. That's a heavy impact with a roll. Of course, damage is indeed off here in these situations, so that car does get itself repaired eventually. Of course, there's a bit of visual damage that shows up for a couple of moments, but you can see the car is good as new as it rejoins the circuit. But let's go back to the live pictures then, because I believe DCT are currently serving their drive-through penalty. And they might have to take the driver change with it, depending on the driver change situation, and that will incur a time penalty added onto the stop.
No, I think they're going for another lap, aren't they? Because the pit window is open. I suppose they'll have to come back in for another loop of the pit lane. And Le Mans has one of the longest pit lanes in the world. Not for fun, because of course we, as Connery mentioned early on, we have around 60 cars racing here every year. So that means 60 garages, the podium, the stewards areas. It's a big one. And they have to do it again. 1 extra stop. 4 stops in this race. 4 pit lane trips, I'm sorry, this rain.
And they'll have to be careful. Oh, will they even get in with the maximum driving time? Because
that's a good point.
Because taking that drive-through penalty now, they might have given themselves an interesting situation as far as the driving time is concerned. So this is how things pile on here, Sommel.
It's a compounding effect. And just when the 11 are having their worst day, the 12 are having their best. They haven't had a situation like this ever.
They might be fine.
Yeah.
They might just be fine by about 10 or 20 seconds.
Oh boy. And that is close. That is close.
Look, their best lap time out there is a 4-minute. Okay, that's by DCT E-Racing. They are the pit window for the first stops for the maximum driving time. 13 minutes since the start. That will be when the clock says 17. So about 2.5 minutes time. They're about almost 2 minutes through their lap right now. So yeah, they are just about have enough time to come down in at the end of this lap, but only just. Oh, that's so close.
That is crazy. This is such a dramatic finish. And imagine, Connery, if they can just... I don't even know what the gap might be right now in terms of points. This is going to be outstanding to find out how close it is. And if DCT can make some sort of recovery, how ridiculous would that be?
Yeah, that would be absolutely crazy. Of course, we got another penalty coming through. 87 causing a collision. That is the Solar Indigo Performance car for causing a collision. That's a second penalty as well, so that's not ideal for the number 87. And in fact, the more cars that get additional penalties here actually works out in the favor of DCT in the 11, because there's more cars behind them.
Exactly. And they will drop down a little bit more. And it's not just any cars, right? It's the number 9 Atlas BX team. It's Redcon who have been superb in the early going of this race as well. Just clamped down by a slowdown penalty from their own doings. But there's pace in there. It's not like it's a slow lineup in the background.
No, not at all. So we're expecting the drivers that went this 1 extra lap to come down in at the end of this lap, because they only have about 1 minute and 15 seconds before the maximum driver time occurs for their driver that's currently in the car and that's started the race inside of that car. So they're going to have to come down in, and that's exactly what DCT E-Racing have decided. So Yunho Park comes in. He has done all that he needs to do, gets up into the race lead. pulls away from Atlas BX a little bit as well, comes down in, and now he has to hand that car over. But there's still the influencer yet to make an appearance for that DCT E-Racing car.
Yep, let's wait and watch. Let's wait and see. But the ball is now in the court of the influencers, because usually that's where they come in. And again,
They're coming in now.
there they are.
Yep.
Yeah. I totally forgot it's an offline event for a second.
So yeah, there is, well, Park coming in. We'll be changing, I think, for Soy in that number 12 car. I think is the influencer driver there. So you can see the front two, the two cars to the right of the podium there. Those are the two DCT cars. So there's Park getting out of the car. And, well, driver change in effect. The Soy gets herself in and set. And what a huge amount of pressure that's on her shoulders right now. Because this is a situation that she for sure has never been in before. Trying to get a stint in a championship, potentially championship challenging car in the very middle portion of the final race. That's a lot of pressure.
And it could be counterintuitive as well, right? Because right now for Soy, the question that might be going on, or the thought that might be going on in the head is, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. But I suppose you're track, what do you think about? So eventually, if you're thinking about crashing...
Did the 12 come down in or not? Oh,
they
no,
did.
they
The 12
did.
come down in, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not seeing a stop time for them. That's what scared me there for just for a second, because on my graphics, it doesn't say a stop time. So, excuse me, it wasn't Soy. It was lovely Cha-Cha coming down in and getting in that car. You know, it's both the two female influencers for the DCT cars, so I got confused between the two of them. But lovely Cha-Cha behind the wheel of the number 12 right now. And I would suppose in the DCT racing car, it would then end up being... potentially, they've come down in and get their stop, but my English spreadsheet hasn't been updated yet. So it looks like, at least for that particular machine, it will be Soy. There we go, Soy. So I did get them the wrong way around. So Soy now behind the wheel of the DCT car. So DCT P9. So let me just do some calculations. I'll get back to you.
And we'll quickly find out how things are going to work out in that sense. But remember, DCT Racing, they've incurred that extra stop penalty now. They've had their swap around as well. Let's see where they cycle out. And the important part that you mentioned, Connery, time is on their side. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Things can get better for them.
So, DCT...
Oh boy.
DCT Racing in the race lead right now. No, DCT Racing is currently in P9 right now. They are 3 points ahead in terms of championship. 3 points.
As it stands.
As it stands.
And it's only going to get better for them if they keep on carrying on with their pace, or things could go pear-shaped as well, potentially, because that's Soy driving it now. And Soy is indeed one of the fast influences out there, but you can't tell what's going to happen. I mean, could we have imagined what happened on the first lap of this race?
So DCT, I'm just trying to calculate this right now. So if they finish P10, they will be 2 points behind. P11, 1 point behind. P12, they will be level at P12. But I think due to countback and how many wins DCT E-Racing got, they would have taken that over the course of this season. P13, of course, would mean that DCT E-Racing then win the championship. So DCT Racing needs to finish P12 or higher. That's the aim.
So far, so good. They've got 2 positions worth of a buffer right here, and things are fine. 2 positions of buffer, and then the third one, of course. But look at this fight. Redcon in the midst of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Redcon in amongst the couple of cars. They've had a good performance so far in this Le Mans event. They got themselves pole position, but they've fallen back to 4th place now as Team PTC up into 3rd. Right now, they're taking 4th in the championship away from the... I've just seen a change for the race lead. What has happened there? Atlas BX E-Racing team. They've gotten themselves ahead into P1. I didn't see how that happened.
Oh boy, that is interesting. But we did see the 12 initially lose a bit of a gap once they came out of the pit lane. So I wonder if it was something like that. I suppose it's just raw pace. Doesn't even look like a slowdown, this one.
No. Just letting the car by. that changes
Why
things
would you do
somewhat.
that?
This is the complexion. I think the team order from DCT Racing might have been to Lovely Charger, just keep yourself out of trouble. If that Atlas BX car comes through, just don't worry about defending it. We'd rather you on track giving us a chance for the final stint rather than wrecking the car, because that's the real driver of Stephen Cho, currently behind the wheel of the Atlas BX E-Racing team. Of course, he is going to be faster than Lovely Charger, so they might have told Lovely Charger, just look, if he comes up on you, just let him go. Just don't fight with him. You're probably going to get in an instant that way. Meanwhile, Team PTC and Redcon still fighting, by the way.
This is so good, so good at the S's, and that's the beauty of Le Mans, right? They let you fight. The circuit is wide enough, and Redcon under pressure from 1 PSR at the S's. This is just natural territory for the MA. That's what you love to M4 GT3. I'm so sorry, but yeah, you will see it at Le Mans, so that's a good part.
Yes, we will. DCT Racing promoting themselves up into P7 now, because Atlas BX Esports team have come down on towards the pit lane. Have they gotten their minimum driver time served? That's the issue for them, as Ryusuk comes down in for the pit stop service here. Remember, there's a minimum drive time, and there's a maximum drive time as well, to try and force the drivers to use all 3 of their drivers here in this one for a significant portion of the race as well. But look at this fight right now for TP2, because obviously Lovely Cha-Cha has been brought back into this because she's taking a leisurely pace out there. She's made a mistake and she's in the wall. Let's all 3 cars by. DCT E-Racing down to 5th.
Gone. Connery, that's what I was talking about. Maybe the pressure of not crashing is so big that you reduce your pace by, say, 200%, and you eventually end up making a mistake under pressure. Everything, again, that could go wrong for DCT E-Racing is going wrong for DCT E-Racing. And the guys in the 11th row will be smiling, but they focus on the battle right now. Redcon with the line ahead. They are beating BTC. And second for Redcon. This is a tremendous result for them if it stays this way, remember, of course.
Yep, it is. It is. Promotes gets the whole boatload of points to their name. Now they're looking to try and make the move. PSR, are involved in this one. Team BTC looking to make the move on Redcon down the Mulsanne straight, absolutely neck and neck, down into the second set. Into the Mulsanne corner, excuse me. Team BTC on the inside, bit of contact between the two as Redcon Motorsports goes sliding into the runoff as Team BTC are out into the gravel. Team BSR get back by. DCT E-Racing get back through as well.
Wowee. What else is going to change today? I don't know, you tell me. Is a BMW M8 going to walk on this circuit? Walk on this circuit and actually going to win this, even though it's a race full of M4s? Anything can happen today. Are we going to see a car fly off into the forest on iRacing? You can tell me that and I'll still believe it. That's how crazy this race is turning out to be.
I don't think we'll see a Mark Webber at some point over the course of this one, but on the brakes down in towards the Mulsanne, he gets too close for comfort and both cars spat out into the gravel. I think that's sort of a self-punishing incident there, more of a racing incident than anything else that sends both cars out into the runoff there. Heading back towards the live pictures then to see how this championship has been changed over the last couple of moments. I will have to take a couple of moments away just to consult my spreadsheet once again and plug in all the values, Samuel.
Yep, exactly. Let's wait and watch for how that cycles out eventually. But it is again DCT E-Racing finding their way inside the top 3. And that is just mysterious. Their pace is just not there in relation to all the other teams and drivers. And it's amazing, Connery. Amazing how just one influencer can make the difference. And for the Atlas BX number 10 team, this is everything that they could hope for. And they normally have one of the better influencers. The Atlas BX team have Ryusuk, and Ryusuk is, of course, famous for his biking in the number 9 car, but the 10 are able to make it work. And also now this stint ends.
Atlas BX Motorsports are in for their final stop of the race. Team BTC are in. DCT E-Racing are in. So Lovely Cha-Cha has been left in the car the minimum amount of time possible to try and complete her race here. And then they'll put the real-life driver, Gyumin Kim, behind the wheel of that DCT E-Racing car to finish this one off. And what can he do from that position? He needs to at least get up into the race lead. But even though, that might happen, it still might not be enough, depending on whether your number 11 finishes.
100%. So you need for the number 12, the number 11 as a bad stint, and you can see the excitement, you can see the tension, and just the way the competitors are standing. They're not calm. They're definitely eager. They're definitely waiting to just get going. And you've got to wait and watch about how that cycles out eventually. You just can't get a bit too over eager, perhaps. That can change the whole game.
Yeah, you can see it was on the extreme right-hand side you saw the driver change for DCT. You're seeing yet more driver changes happen here as well with Redcon, Motorsports getting their driver in as well. There's side-by-side off of the pit lane between DCT and another car there. Team BTC and DCT E-Racing were wheel-to-wheel coming off of the pit lane. 7 minutes left to go in the season, Somil. The final run to the line starts now.
Here we go then. It's all or nothing right now. Peak performance comes in right here. And they've got everything to play for. It could still go either way. You don't even know if the 11 is actually going to finish where it does finish. Of course, you've got more certain drivers now. But that's the AMX ESPORTS Championship. Even your certain drivers can be uncertain at times.
Two Atlas cars. Oh, they come together. Two teammates in P1 and P2.
What?
After the pit stops, they wreck each other out. No! How to throw it away in one moment for Atlas. They were looking so good, and now DCT E-Racing are back into the lead. They're doing all that they need to do to try and win this championship, but again, it still depends on where DCT Racing finish. They're currently in P8 and still safe.
I'll just have to quote Martin Brundle for this. Don't do whatever they do. You just don't do that. You just don't hit your own teammate, regardless of whoever it is. Remember who's racing. And it works out just fine because the 9, of course, is the team in need for more points, but remember how and who you are racing. It is such a golden rule in motorsport. You never make contact. And I don't even know what the 9 could have done. What could the 9 have done? Not be there?
I have no clue, Somil. I have no clue. There's the contact. You're just passing too close. You just need to give your teammate a little bit of a wider berth. You know, just pass them wide. There's no need to pass them that close.
Yeah, exactly. And it's gone for the team. Now, the reason why it stings is because the number 9 Atlas BX car, anyway, they would have been third, right? But the number 10, had they won this race, they would have massively elevated themselves up in the championship, which means more money, more prizes. And they've suddenly just bottled it for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, DCT Racing still maintain their P7, still safe as far as championship is concerned. Atlas BX Esports team in P2. They are up to 236 points in the standings with finishing there, but I don't know whether that will hold, depending on whether the stewards will have anything to say about that one. Team BTC are still ahead of Ulsan DR Motorsports at this stage of the event, and well, looking to try and maintain that position. The 10 and the 9 are under investigation, and no surprise, those are the 2 Atlas BX cars. Oh, Quadro E-Rain.
And they've had a bit of a spin. They've had a bit of an issue, which means that DCT Racing could well be just going higher up the order. The 12 will not be happy about that.
Solite are fighting with DCT. But the thing is,
nice.
even, you know, as long as they finish 12th or higher, 12th is all the way back to Solite at the moment, which is about a good minute back on them. Unless it's a catastrophic incident for DCT Racing. They stood still, win this championship. It's got to require having an incident, ending up on the roof, and having to take a tow back to the pit lane, or a penalty.
Either can happen. Literally, either can happen. Is the AMX ESPORTS Championship. Quick. It is. Yeah, there we are.
10,
that's
causing a collision.
And it sucks. It sucks that they are the ones paying the penalty. The team itself, the Atlas BX name, is the one paying this. I mean, it's like when the Newcastle United players decided to fight within each other. So both of them got a red card, and Newcastle United actually finished the match with 9 people. Come on.
Yeah,
don't do that.
I do sympathise with that feeling here as we head into the final 3 minutes of this event. Then there's Atlas BX, Team BTC coming down on towards the pit lane here for their final stop. Where would this put them out in relation to the Sandia Motorsports car? Because surely, what's going on here? 3 minutes left to go. That driver that's getting in now will not be within a minimum driving time.
That is absurd. Huh.
I'm not seeing any penalty come through from them.
Neither do I. And, well, that's a bit absurd, isn't it?
Yeah, that is.
I can't tell why that's happened.
Yeah, because has BTC completely blown this one? Because if that is a driver time issue, then it must be. It must be, because this is only their second time on towards pit lane.
Oh my goodness! And Team BTC are in a hefty fight.
I guess it depends on the interpretation of the rules, because if you count the cooldown after, they might still be fine. If the total race time is X amount, more than 30 minutes, then they might still be fine in terms of the driver time. But yeah, you still, I wouldn't run it to be running that close that you actually have to consider stuff like that.
It's just a bit unnecessary, isn't it? And right now, Ulsan Dia are laughing all the way to the bank because, well, they just get better penalty than them, better position than them. At BTC stayed where they were with a normal pit stop, I suppose they could have had a good shot at maybe being in the top. Yeah.
With Ulsan Dia in 8th and Team BTC in 10th, they are tied on points for P4.
Oh my god, and P4 has quite a decent reward in terms of Bitcoin. So the race is on again all of a sudden. Aha! What can we see happening here?
We've got ourselves Kim and Kim, DCT E-Racing. There are races, there are events, you know, like the past 2 days, which really are a very, very big learning experience. And I think you just kind of have to say it's that situation for DCT E-Racing, because they were the favorites by quite a margin coming into these final offline events. But a horrible first day and a horrible Las Vegas race means that they come second in the championship at the end of this, rather than first. Of course, we still have to watch them across the line to confirm, but this is bittersweet. This win will be bittersweet for DCT E-Racing.
And just one race, Connery. It's not like they did that much wrong. And even the race that really went wrong for them wasn't even their fault. All throughout the season, it's just when they've made the errors that's mattered. The 11 car, they've had their fair share of problems. Even they made errors in this race. But they were lucky in terms of when they happened, so that they had enough time to recover. For the 12, it's happened at grave moments.
So for the final time in the season, the checkered flag is out. DCT E-Racing, they will take the win in the final round of the season. They come across the line, elated with the performance, but unfortunately for them, it is not the championship win. You have to look all the way back here to DCT E-Racing in P5. They have done just about enough to do it here in the AMX Esports Championship. The real-world driver of Young Chan Kim will head his way into the final sets of chicanes here to crown DCT Racing the champions of Season 1 of the AMX Esports Championship. The number 11 takes it all here at Le Mans. DCT Racing, they surpassed their sister car for the championship. They were the secondary machine for most of this season, but they're the ones that get the trophy.
And it's all down to keeping it clean at the right moments. They were fast. They always were quick enough to be in the top 2, that is. They were never, ever the fastest. But when it mattered, the number 11 DCT Racing team were able to keep it clean. And that is why they are the champions and the 12 isn't. But I don't think there's any sadness over there, is there?
No, I don't think so as well. You can see the drivers coming to congratulate them now. Unfortunately, we didn't get ourselves the spider cam on stage to get the view of it. I was watching it intently as they were coming across the line there, but hugs all around, even for Redcon, as they get all the hugs out there and celebrate what was a pretty good run for them. Redcon finish on the podium in this one, by the way, so that's a big points haul for those guys, and it might promote themselves up a good couple of positions as far as championship is concerned. Everyone coming to a stop out there on circuit. I don't think anyone's going to particularly care about the rule of driving it back to pit lane at this point, as everyone just more concerned about celebrating. You can see the grouping at the front of the stage there. They're jumping around from DCT Racing. They are elated with their championship win. As well, we'll make it full screen for you. Why not? As we can see them down at the very front of the stage there. They were jumping around for joy, and now they're standing by for the Korean language interview here. Somil, the feeling must be crazy for those guys right now.
Absolutely, Connery. It's been months and months and months of hard work, so much intense competition, and mentally as well. This series has been taxing for everybody, right? After the long break, it was clear that both the DCT cars were the most prepared. They had the most in the bag. And it must have meant a lot of time being spent. And time and effort, well, when it all just comes up and rewards you in such an amazing way, it's such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, as the drivers get themselves the celebrations on the post-race show for the Korean stream, we'll get ourselves our post-race show and show you our wonderful faces here in this one as well. I doubt my face is too wonderful, to be honest, as I'll get that self-critical comment out of the way here, Somel. But yeah, I don't think any of us expected at the end of this season to really have any idea like anything like that would happen. We were expecting a close fight. Yes, we were. We were expecting a close fight. We didn't expect it to be decided on an incident and on penalties and situations in the final race as well. And of course, the yesterday with all the shenanigans that happened there too.
And just how many of them? That's the point. Even yesterday, even today, there was drama. There was some really good fair racing as well, a lot of the times. But it eventually was the 11 that prevailed. And as I said early on, it was under tumultuous circumstances, you have to say. I mean, they had to survive so much drama, so much of just things happening around them. I mean, imagine, right? If I was the number 11, if I was told that, right, you have a drive-through penalty, I would crumble in. But they didn't in that last race, and they did sustain it. They did survive it. And that's why they are your champions.
Points as they stand: DCT Racing 278, DCT E Racing 266. Atlas BX Esports team, they are third place in the championship right now, pending, of course, review of the final race. We got Ulsan DR Motorsports. They just about squeaked themselves ahead of Team BTC for fourth place due to the fact that Team BTC had to come down in for their stop. And I get the feeling that Team BTC are also going to be on for a driving time penalty as well at the end of this one. Is you can see the continuing proceeds from the live event, the Korean language interview underway, the drivers being congratulated. Fantastic stuff indeed. And well, it's well deserved for those drivers of the number 11. They kept themselves out of trouble, which is the most important thing to do in an entire championship. You gotta be consistent, and they were consistent. They didn't have all that many problems. You know, even as a season-long effort. You know, if you think back to the online races, they just kept themselves in it. They kept themselves top 5, top 3, consistent results, and doing that in the final 2 offline events has what won them the championship here today. Even though, theoretically, technically, even by the numbers out there on circuit, the e-racing car was faster. But that doesn't mean anything if you don't get to the checkered flag where you should be.
Absolutely nailed it. And that's been the difference, right? Consistency was never a problem with both these teams. Both the DCT cars, they just barely ever made a mistake until we were like, what, 75% of the championship in? Only after that where we potentially saw some sort of crack start to appear in this series in between both these teams, because of course the pressure gets to you. You're only human at the end of the day, right? And that's when both the teams started to make the mistakes here and there. But it's the consistency. When they say consistency is king, they mean it. It might sound dull, but at the end of the day, it's the most important thing in the world.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and well, you can see that again. Soon we'll have the podium ceremony. We'll stick around for the podium ceremony. How about that, Summer? We'll stick around to see these
Yeah.
guys, see these guys get their rewards, lift the trophy. But let's talk about what they've won here today, because the prize money, of course, based on the value of 1 Bitcoin. So the prize pool, of course, for those that are not into cryptocurrency, you would, or even if you're not, you might have seen the news articles that the Bitcoin price kind of exploded. So the
Yeah.
the current Bitcoin value is $59,000, at least at the time of writing the graphic. First place gets 0.4 of a Bitcoin, so that is 0.4 of 59,000 there, which I'm just about to try and calculate. I wonder if you can do it in your head, Somel, before I can get my calculator out.
My
It's
math is bad.
$23,600 to the winning team.
Divide by 3, I suppose.
Divide by 3 of them, yeah. So
that's still a good chunk of money. That's a wow. That makes them rich by a certain amount. I'm not sure if I would take the money right now, though. Maybe wait for a year, let the Bitcoin prices get even bigger, and then I maybe cash in on my amount if you can.
You're waiting for Bitcoin to hit 100K or something, yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you can, then why not?
You just hold on to the money until it's worth more. But yeah, sorry. Sometimes some things you say, Sol, will just kill me in terms of just being funny. But yeah, that's around about $7,900 each. Of course, it depends on their exact contractual arrangements with their team, of course, whether or not the team gets a cut of that, or things, things of similar nature. But still, it's not a small amount of money. Of course, we also had the second place, so that is the other DCT car. They get themselves about $4,000 each. For finishing in P2, and in P3, you get yourself 0.1 of a Bitcoin. So it's going to be about $2,000 each for P3 as well. So that goes to Ulsandia Motorsports. For P4, no, not the Ulsandia Motorsports, excuse me, the Atlas BX Esports team. And for P4, we're going to get ourselves a value of 0.06 of a Bitcoin. So that is about $1,200 each for P4. So that's the amount of money that that Ulsandia Motorsports are getting, and for Team BTC, it's 0.035. So it's about $700 for those guys each at the end of the season. Everyone, by the way, all the way down to P20 gets at least 0.01 of a Bitcoin. So that is a sum of about $200 each for their drivers.
Not bad. Honestly, not bad. I mean, they've put in so much time, they've put in so much effort, and they have made this championship the amazing show that it genuinely has been. And I can't imagine how the people in Korea might have reacted to this while watching it on TV. I mean, if something like that comes in on my national television channels, I would go bonkers over it, because this was just so dramatic all the time. How do you even cope up? And that's amazing. You see the excitement in the air. You see how many people just have come in here to organize this event. It means a lot. It really does.
It really does, and there's the round of applause for the drivers, and of course, it's great to see that the rest of the competitors are continuing to watch on as the prizes are being given out at the moment. It's great to have that sort of support for those drivers, and you can see it's one big community as well. You can see all the hugs going around, even between drivers that are not part of the same team, congratulating each other on the prize money and the competition today. This is what you'd like to see, and it's a little bit heartwarming, isn't it?
Yeah, it genuinely is. You want to see a competitive spirit, right? What's the point of getting sour with each other, not being happy, just being agitated? Nah, this is so amazing. Makes you feel warm and fuzzy. And isn't that the best feeling in the world, honestly?
Yeah, I definitely agree here. You can see, again, yet more hugs going around. And, of course... the cleanup starts in terms of the crew there, in terms of getting the studio prepared for its next endeavor. But Tomel, just to really sum up in terms of that one. Again, it's a situation that we just simply didn't expect coming into this final round. But I think, just to cap everything off, this is a good sign for Korean esports racing. We have, especially if you look towards the very front of the field, with those sim drivers, with the sim driver races in the online races in particular, you can see that there is talent there, and talent that needs to be nurtured. Yunho Park, for example, he'll,
That's right.
very quick driver, very, very quick. Hee Jung-an, very, very quick as well. For Yunho Park, of course, he's taken this as a big learning experience. He was consistent throughout the entire season, and then when it matters most, bottles it. Completely bottles it, and I don't think I'm being too harsh in saying it. It sounds harsh, but I don't think I'm. But it is the fact of the situation, and these are these situations, though, Samuel, where you get the most development. Yunho Park is so young. Hee Jung-an is so young.
Yeah.
Lots of these drivers, lots of the sim drivers in particular, are so young, and this is perhaps one of their first opportunities on a big stage to showcase their talent, and they'll take a lot out of this.
100%. So simply, right? How do you cook food? How do you make sure that your steak is nice and juicy? You have to cook it, right? Which means putting it through fire in a way, and
Yeah.
it hurts. Definitely does, but the end product is quite a special one. And Yunho Park, Lee Jung-an, Song Yun-kang, drivers like them, and even Garrod for that matter. Garrod might be an influencer, but my word, Garrod,
Yeah.
man, if you're listening, mate, you should do this full time. You're pretty good at this. And drivers like this, they've taken the experience of working together. They've taken the experience of working with teammates, of actually competing across disciplines, by the way, because they've also done a little bit of oval racing in this championship too. It means a lot. And think about it, right? Would you see any athlete becoming a pro athlete had they not seen, say, for instance, someone doing it on their TV or maybe on their social media platforms and said, wow, that looks cool. I want to try it. It's just
I
for
want
the
to get
better
in
of
there.
if
I was young and in South Korea, I'd be watching that. I'd be like, I would be involved in that. That's so cool.
Exactly.
I hopefully this is a sign of things to come, because it's the first event of its kind in South Korea with iRacing in particular. A little bit more of a hardcore simulator than what has come before in the Korean esports sector. So it's definitely a big exploratory move. And I think it's been a success, and I'm certainly looking forward to any potential season 2 of this. I don't know how you can get bigger and better in terms of the show, though.
No, seriously, in terms of drama, I don't think you can do anything else. And that's the thing, right? With some things, you just got to keep it the way they are. Like IndyCar racing, it's always been a mixture of strategy and dull periods followed by a very exciting finish. And that's the magic product of IndyCar racing. Say, Formula E's magic product is just kamikaze 45 minutes all the way through. AMX has somewhat of a similar episode, but I just hope that maybe the other teams, maybe your BTCs, maybe your Atlas BXs of the world are able to pose a more competitive fight next year. Because even though we saw DCT win, of course, big time, this race was still competitive. This whole series was very competitive. Now, imagine if we had more different looking cars fighting for the championship and not just race wins here or there.
Yeah, possibly. There's a lot of development to come here. We've certainly enjoyed the season so much here on the English stream. I have no doubt the Korean crew have also had a whole bunch of fun here in this one as well. Certainly a great display of racing here, and a display of some of the young talents in South Korea that hopefully we'll be able to see even in international events, in the bigger events on iRacing with regards to World Championships and other events like that. Maybe we'll see some of these drivers get themselves in a big team like Redline or Coanda. Who knows? Who knows what the next 5 years holds? 5 to 10 years. That's kind of the time frame that we're looking at here. So certainly something that you very much want to keep an eye on. But we're all wrapping up here. They're all wrapping up there in the studio as well at the Africa Coliseum in Seoul, South Korea, as all of the teams just congregate together, getting themselves, congratulating their teammates, congratulating the other teams on a job well done over the course of this season. They're getting some hats as well, which I've just seen. Some hats to be able to take home in this situation. But from me, from myself, Connery Maddock, from Sumal Aurora as well. And of course, thank you very much to all of our production crew and all of our race administrators over the course of the season as well. Shout out to Hugo producing the Korean stream as well. Shout out to all of the Korean crew members over at Africa TV for putting together the Korean stream, and of course the live event that you're seeing up on screen for you right now. And of course, very much thanks to the race administration as well, led by Ricardo Edelman, for putting for getting the drivers in order as far as penalties and some such. Thank you very much to Kara for their services over the course of this season as well. But with that, with all of the thanks done, Sawmill, we will have to end. Thank you very, very, very much for joining us for what has been an absolutely incredible season here in the AMX Esports Championship, powered, of course, by Kolon Motors, BMW dealership there in South Korea. Season 2, well, it might be sooner than you think. You want to keep yourself posted on all of the AMX social media on Instagram and, of course, RaceSpotTV on Twitter. But for now, of course, from the Africa Coliseum, we'll have to say goodbye and good night. We are back just for a couple of moments, everyone, because we do, in fact, of course, have the podium procedure underway here. Of course, again, Sawmill, for these drivers, this is going to be maybe a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Hopefully not once in their lifetime for some of the top drivers, but for a handful of them, seeing something like this and seeing their names in the top step of the podium or any steps of that podium is an experience in and of itself. And for DCT Racing, of course, they got the top position. DCT E-Racing, second place. Atlas BX Esports team in third place as, well, we tried to bring you some post-race coverage here on RaceSpotTV, but seems like our spider cam has decided to point down a little bit, so we can't exactly see the podium sitters for the moment. But we can see the cheers, we can see the whole situation going on there at the Africa Coliseum. Top step of the podium for DCT Esports, and well, they shared the top step with their competitors there as well, just to make sure that they can. Well, it's more of a nice thing, a sportsmanlike thing to do there, Sawmill, and certainly very happy with their checks that they're no doubt going to get. Or we can't really possibly get a check in Bitcoin. So what do you get? What do you get? Do you just get a Bitcoin transaction or something? I don't know.
I think a certificate is what you get too.
It looked like they were writing the certificates while we were wrapping up the show.
Yeah, it's crazy. Everyone does that, right? I think back over here, whenever a player does well or performs well, they just actually give them a cardboard cutout of the keys of the car. Like, what am I supposed to do with it? And something like that. But over here, at least it's a bit more representative, and it's so amazing to see the podium, right?
Yeah. So they did the podium for the race, I think, and then now they're doing the actual final podium, I think, for the season. So the trophy, yeah, there we go. So it was the certificates for the race that would be given out a little bit early on. These are the trophies for the actual season, it seems. So third place to Atlas BX. Fantastic performance from them. Of course, it wasn't an ideal couple of offline rounds for them, for Atlas BX Esports team, but they are able to secure P3 in the championship. P2 at the championship goes to DCT E-Racing, the team that's led the championship for so long over the course of this season. They fall at the final hurdle, but P2 in the championship, certainly nothing to be sniffed at. And now the trophies are being given to DCT Racing, the underdogs as far as DCT are concerned, at least with their 2 championship contending cars, but they went the distance in the final event here. The final offline event in the Africa Coliseum. DCT Racing take the top prize. Certainly very happy about things. Of course, we can't see their smiles or their grins because of the masks, but no doubt they are incredibly happy. And, well, I guess the party will be started in a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. And from what I can tell, rather, from what I've heard, Koreans are very good at their partying, and there'll certainly be quite a fair bit at the DCT camp, regardless of whether it is the 12 or the 11. I think today they celebrate together as a team, right? Because look at what they've done objectively. They've absolutely demolished everybody, every other team out there.
Yep, they absolutely have. So they now jump off the podium and rejoin the rest of the drivers. They take the first, second, and third placards away from them. I would have thought they'd be able to keep those, but yeah, but that's unfortunate. I'll give them back to them. There we go. As drivers talking in amongst each other, getting their hats on as well. The AMX Esports hats that they've been given out over the course of the season. Another podium ceremony as well is going on. So not entirely sure what the situation is here. We haven't had the game plans translated for us as far as the final portion of the thing is concerned. Maybe they're just trying to get their photo opportunities on the podium, I guess.
Yeah. And why not? Moments like this don't happen often, right? You don't often get conferred with a trophy, with something like 0.4 bitcoins. It's amazing.
This might be the final one then. We've had about 3 false starts with many different groups of drivers getting themselves onto the podium, but I think this is now DCT Racing. It's been a little bit of a mess here at the very end, I'll be completely honest, on the English stream, but we're just enjoying the very end of the season here, and drivers getting rightfully credited for their wins in the championship and the races as well. I think they did the podium ceremonies for each of the 3 races, which is why we saw many podium ceremonies before this actual one here. 3rd in the championship, I'll go over it again, for Atlas PX Esports team, as the 2nd goes to DCT Racing.
Totally worth it. They've just brought so much drama and so much fun to this championship all year long. We get to do it again.
Yeah.
Luckily, next year.
How many podium ceremonies do you want? You know, we'll just have all of the podium ceremonies. Why not get everyone up there? As DCT are given their 2nd place placard there, and well, for the 3rd attempt of me doing this, DCT Racing in 1st place. You can see their 3 drivers there up on the podium. And, well, we'll get ourselves... what's that in the box? I wonder what's in the box. I didn't quite see, but they got themselves a box there, as well as the trophy. I'll have to ask our contact about that a little bit later on to see what the box is. But there they are.
Oh. It's not a box, Connery. Call it like one of the pro wrestling commentators does. It's a box-like structure. That's what they called it once. On a live broadcast, it's a box.
It's a box-like structure. But yeah, it's great to see these guys, you know, getting the credit they deserve. Though, of course, we're just observers here on the English stream. Things are a little bit more structured over there on the Korean broadcast. Do they get to keep the placards? No, they do not. They get stolen away by the staff members there, as they will vacate the podium, and the Korean presenters will do their thing. But we'll just hold a bit, just in case they want to do another podium ceremony here. You never know. But Samuel, the situation is that, you know, we've had this done and dusted now. We've got this one in the bag. And, you know, do we dare? Do we dare talk about a season 2? What changes would you potentially like to have?
I don't know, some sort of a DCT ballast, so that if you've got DCT in your name, you have some sort of natural penalty coming along. Now, honestly, keep it as it is, because once the drivers get better, right, they've done more time, and so they'll naturally get better. And the same thing goes for DCT as well. I wonder how high their ceiling is. But you know for sure, once you've done it once you know what you can do to get better, you want to do better. And so that's going to be amazing to see how they respond to it.
Yeah, more podium ceremonies happening.
This keeps on going.
It does keep going. It does indeed keep going. But we'll continue to watch this one through. I'm actually mildly entertained by the amount of podiums that they're doing right at the moment. But But yeah, Samuel, is there, because this is the first of its kind sort of event here in Korea, what about, other organizations that are looking at this and say, okay, wait, I want that in my country. I want that in, for example, your home country of India. You want this in
Yeah.
Japan or some other countries where maybe sim racing's not as prevalent, but racing as a motorsport is still in the public consciousness. Uh, what do you do in that sort of situation? To try and step up to these guys.
I mean, certainly, it's the chicken and egg situation, right?
Mm.
So one might say, well, people are not interested, so we can't put our money in it. But how do you? But the people will say, well, I haven't quite seen it, so how do I get interested into it? So someone has to take that leap of faith that AMX has done in South Korea, right? Bring it to the people, show them what it's all about, and let's see if they are keen enough. And I suppose they would be. Why would you not? I mean, it's turned out to be such a fun event. If there are people watching on Africa TV, which usually there are, I see no reason why they won't even at least think about maybe watching a couple of other sim racing broadcasts. Maybe here on RaceSpot TV. Join in, guys. Why not?
Yeah, of course. We have broadcasts. Well, what feels like every day at this point here on RaceSpot TV. So
Yeah.
you get no shortage of sim racing action here over on RaceSpot TV. Of course, yeah, another podium ceremony going on behind the pillar there. But of course, we will have to wrap this one up at some point after these guys are done doing their thing. On the podium once again. I think that podium has had more people stand on it than there are entrants in the race at this point. So we'll
Yeah. Who even knows? Or maybe there are more people standing on the podium than there have been twists in the championship so far.
Oh, that's a positive spin on it, isn't it?
Hmm.
But yeah, yet more trophies being handed out here. Lots of trophies, and well, quite a bit of prize money for the main championship as we start to wind down here at the Africa Coliseum. Of course, we're powered by the wonderful Kolon Motors, but the BMW dealership here in South Korea. But with that, of course, I will have to put an end to the shenanigans now. We will have to bring things to a close. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us once again. I've done this outro already just a few moments ago while we thought the show had ended, but in fact it did not. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. My name's been Connery Maddock, and Sumal Aurora has been standing by me in the commentary booth throughout the season. We both have been doing every single race in this season. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and we'll have to say once again, bye-bye, and we'll see you again soon.